Okay, folks, we've decided at 6 o'clock, we're going to call our meeting to order. We have some business to take care of here for a few minutes. If y'all will just bear with us for a few minutes, and then we'll try to get into the meeting, okay? First thing I'm going to do is call the roll.
Sid Adams. Here. Sam Bowman. Here. Darrell Brooks. Here. Christy Budridge.
Here.
Philip Cantrell.
Here.
Gerald Cook. Here. Mo Gass. Here. Michael Haney. Scott McNabb. Here. Jack Mullinax. Here. Susan Tankersley.
Here.
David Brown.
Here.
Christy Parker.
Here.
Okay. Now then, I'm going to turn the meeting over to David here for a few minutes.
All right, this being a new year, it's time for us to make nominations for the chairman. Do we have any nominations?
I have a question. Can we nominate Philip again for next year?
You can nominate anybody.
I nominate Philip.
I'll second.
All right. Is there any opposed? Vote.
Anybody
Show of
else?
hands who wants to fill it back. Well, Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
maybe you can get your bill.
Right.
Turn it back over to you. You
Okay.
get to do
Okay. All right. We need to ask for a nomination for a vice chairman. Anybody want to nominate themselves?
I'll vice chair.
Vice chairman? Okay, we have one. Ms. Christie there.
I'll nominate Terry.
Anyone else? Okay. We just got the one nomination. Did we have a second? Got a second? Second. Okay. All in favor? Vice chair. Yeah.
Terry.
And that's from me.
Well, did we, that's what I say, did we nominate Terry?
I did.
Because okay, I'm sorry.
She nominated.
No, I haven't done it, I'm new, so.
Okay, so we got Christie we got a second. Terry is also, he's been our vice chairman for a couple of years. Got a second for Terry? Got a second there? Okay, all right. So we're gonna vote on two for vice chairman then. First, we're gonna vote on one of our new members, Miss Christie. All in favor? Okay. Okay, now we're gonna vote on Terry. Okay, all right. Terry's been our vice chairman for what, 2 years? 2 years, okay. Okay, the secretary will remain the same since Christie does our secretary work. And then we'll try to get into the meeting. Okay, folks, this is the work session for the Planning and Zoning Board. This is not our regular meeting, so we don't have anybody coming in front of us tonight with any kind of problems. What we're here for is to try to solve some of the problems that's in the zoning. We're not trying to make any new problems for anyone. We're trying to solve some of the old problems. We have a lot of new things that's coming into the county. We have people that want to build campgrounds, put up yurts, do different things for rental, for overnight rentals and things like that, and we have no regulations for that. Being on the zoning board and the zoning appeals board and stuff, we have to try to take care of the citizens by having rules so that, we won't get somebody burned up. We're putting people out in the woods without any kind of restroom facilities. Those are the kind of things we're looking at. By looking at all of those hats back there tonight, and since I am a farmer myself from over in the Villanelle area, we're we do have chicken houses on our agenda. And the reason that chicken houses is on our agenda is that the county is getting more and more populated. We have more and more of you guys who are farmers that own property that want your kids to build on their land. And then you die, your kids get a divorce, and we have a new neighbor in the neighborhood. So we're trying to address some of the problems that ends up being handed down to property owners around farming. If you read the regulations, you'll find out that in R1, R2, R3, R4, and commercial zoning, you have to be 300 foot from the property line to build a chicken house. Now, we as farmers out there who own a lot of land, maybe, or small pieces of land, we only have to be 15 foot from our neighbor's property line to build a chicken house. Now, I don't think there's anybody sitting back there that live on a farm that would like to have a chicken house within 15 foot of their property. But it is legal, and we do have some chicken farms in the county right now that's only 30 foot from the adjoining property line. And so we're not trying to change what people have now. What we're trying to change is what's going to happen in the front of us. And so that's what we're looking at doing out there. We're not trying to go back and do anything. If anybody's got a farm and it's operating and all of that, we're not trying to change any of that stuff. We're just trying to look forward that the people that move into the county that want to build a chicken house, or they want to build a home out there, or they want to divide the land off for their children, whatever they want to do, we're trying to look out after all of those people. And in the agriculture zoning, it is 5 acres. It used to be 10 acres. And we have more and more people coming to zoning meetings that want to give their kids 2 acres of their 5 acres. So somewhere you have to stop at whatever agriculture zoning is and what residential becomes. And so those are the problems that we have. Now we'd like for all of y'all to sit there and listen, to us while we try to discuss some of these things. But I can assure you we're not trying to change, what is already out there today that people have. It was the law when it was done, so we can't go back and backtrack on that. But we do want to change some of these rules in the future for people, because there's more and more people moving out into the county, into the agriculture zoning. And so we have people come every month with these problems. So sitting on this board, we've heard all of this. And so that's the reason that we're trying to address some of these issues. To give you an idea, in the chicken house business, we're going to talk about setbacks. Now, Walker County has very little setback rules. But if you go to the counties that adjoin us, you have to be like 750 foot from the property line to have a stack house. Now, a lot of you guys may be farmers and got chicken houses. So, some of the rules that other counties has got, we may try to adopt some of those, and we're trying to make our own rules to make it, for folks. When I sit and figure this stuff up, we have chicken farms in Walker County that's on 10 acres. Well, when you sit down and figure up the regulations that you really need to be from a distance from the road and from your neighbor's property, the best I can tell, you need to own about 36.7 acres of land. So those are the things we're trying to address. We're not trying to put anybody out of business. We're trying to, if you want to know the truth, we're trying to look out after the guys in agriculture zoning that own farms, is what we're trying to do. Because if we fill those areas up with residents, then that's going to cause us, going to cause the farmers more problems, as we all know. So, but anyway, that's what we're trying to do tonight. And so we're going to try to do some chicken houses. We're talking about a new A1 zoning commercial, A1-C, which will be a commercial agriculture zoning that we think we can put these campgrounds and yurts and things like that in that people want to build. We don't think that's going to be a good fit for some kind of residential neighborhood, to have a campground in the middle of a residential neighborhood. So those are the things we're trying to work out. And the other thing is we have a lot of people that's wanting to build these tiny homes. We have people that's wanting to build houses out of steel containers that you pull up and down the road for storage boxes. And, we have people wanting to build tree houses. So we have a lot of different problems that, we never have had to address before. And so the tiny houses is how little a tiny house do we want? In Walker County, how little of a house do we want? If you have a bedroom, a bathroom, and a kitchen, you can't, is it going to be a camper or is it going to be a house? So those are the things that we're trying to address for the folks in the county. And we have all tried to study some of these rules by different people. The state has come up with some rules, and we even have now some regulations from the state or from other states on yurts. Does anybody out there know what a yurt is? So we want that to be able to be for people to be able to build those and use them and rent them, but we have to have regulations for them to go by so that it'll work for everybody. But anyway, if we run into something here that we're really not opening it up for all of the public comment, but if we get into something and it looks like that we need to have some comment and somebody has something that's really useful to say, we'll try to give you a few minutes to talk. But as y'all can see, there'd be no way we could let everybody talk. We would never get anything done. So anyway, we're gonna open this up and see if we can start discussing some of these things. So. The first thing I do have on my list is the poultry houses. I tried to get Christie to give everybody a copy of the setbacks from Whitfield County, Gordon County, Cook County, Mary County, and Catoosa County. If y'all will look, if you go to Gordon County, it's 750 foot on a stack house, 1,500 foot from any school or a rest home or a church, and 500 foot from anybody's regular property. But they also make you build a buffer down there. You have to have a buffer, 200 foot into the property. If you go to Chattooga County, and Chattooga County really doesn't even have any zoning, but they got some real strict laws on this. They want you to be 1,000 foot from any kind of residential or commercial building, 100 foot from a property line, 250 foot from a stream, and 1,500 foot from any other poultry farm or house, and 75 foot from the county right-of-way. And let me say something right there on the county right-of-way. In Walker County, what we have, gentlemen, is a rule that says they have to be 60 foot from the road. Okay, so you can build a chicken house within 60 foot of a county road. Okay? Now then, what I'm looking at is, if you're within 60 foot of the road, and my neighbor is across the road, on the other side of the road, and he's 60 foot from the road, legally to build a dwelling, so he's 60 foot, so we're putting our neighbor within 150 foot of the chicken house, just because he's across the road. The problem that I see with the way the regulations are is, if you say my neighbor across the road lives somewhere else, and he is planning on building him a home there, and so the farmer on this side of the road builds a chicken house within 60 foot of the road, This guy comes in and all he owns is a 5-acre strip, which will be 210 foot wide and 1,000 foot deep. So he's gonna build a chicken house, is 60 foot off of the road, and so what we're doing is we're basically causing him not to build a house. He's gonna walk away from the land, and he's not gonna build a chicken house, if you know what I'm saying, under those circumstances. Now, some people, it doesn't matter, you know, and I understand that. Some people don't, you know, they don't care if it was there or if it wasn't there. But you know, we have to look at the situation of the people that do care, you know, so. But anyway, that's one thing I have found in the regulations, that they're calling for 75 foot down there, which to me is kind of fine in a way, but when you think about the guy across the road, when the regulations go from the road, you know, then that kind of changes that area.
Phil, can I ask a question?
Yeah,
So we're not talking about changing the structures that are existing now. Everyone that has a chicken structure now, where it is today,
yeah,
would be grandfathered in.
that's right.
So we're not talking about changing anything that's in place right now.
That's
We're
correct.
only talking about new chicken houses, new poultry houses that are
Right,
coming.
that's right, that's
Okay.
right, yeah. Yeah, we're not, we can't legally go back and change, you know, what's already, what is there, you know.
Right, right.
We couldn't, but what we're trying to do is go forward to get, what we're trying to do is to put some regulations in place, so when these guys do want to build chicken houses, or, and it's not just chicken houses, hog barns, you know, cattle feed lots, you know, everything that falls into that category. Commercial operation. And so if they want to do that, we want the right regulations. What I don't want to see, by being a farmer myself, okay? What I don't want to see is a guy invest $2 million into a piece of property, or maybe $5 million, depending on what you do now. Okay, so you invest all that money into that property in your livelihood, and then you end up with 20 homes that's built next door to you, and you got 20 complainers when those fans come on, or when you wean all them cows. How many people in here has got 100 head of cows? Okay, when you wean them calves, the mamas talk. I took about 40 off the day before yesterday. The choir is going at my place right now. You know, so if you have a bunch of neighbors that live close to you, you know, they don't appreciate that. You know, it's kind of like a barking dog. You know.
But these people are already there. So are you talking about, I mean, because I'm pretty much in favor of having more square footage. I am in favor of having vegetation between our watersheds, you know, our water things. And what do we want to say about Walker County? What are we trying to promote our county? Is it the beauty of the county, the natural beauty, or is it that we're agriculturally advanced?
Okay, y'all have to calm down just a little bit for me.
But if you've already got your farm, and you've already got your cattle houses, and somebody built 17 houses next to you, then they should have done their homework.
Now, see, we can't stop that.
Right, but it's
And
not, it wouldn't be the
but-
farmers.
Well, it's kind of like
farmers.
the chicken or the egg
Right,
first.
exactly.
So the farmer was there first.
Right,
If you come out there and encroach on him, you know, you should be able to see across the road what's
right.
going on.
Welcome to Cowland.
You know, not shame on him, shame on you.
Right,
So, but anyway, so, the other thing there that we've got is, these houses that have what they call tunnel houses, where the fans come on and, you know, circulate all the air in the houses, and I think most all of the,
That's new. I mean, that's, everything from now on will have that.
right, will be tunnel houses. So anyway, there's some of the counties putting restrictions on that of 1,750 feet. So, you know, that's a pretty good piece, 1,750 feet from property line, you know, so. And also, 2,000 feet from city limits is another one that we have. Mary County has a 200 foot, and I think Scott, hadn't y'all done a lot of surveying over there in Mary County?
Here lately, yes, sir.
Okay, in
35 acres,
35 acres is
two houses,
two houses on 35 acres.
660-foot houses, standard.
Right.
Time you do your 200 by 200 on each side, and the stream buffers.
Okay.
Eats up a lot of property. And depending on the amount of grading, you gotta be done to get them flat.
Right, the amount of grading to get the houses on the property.
Site prep.
Right.
Are we wanting to draw more farmers into Walker County? I know we want to keep what we have, and
Yeah.
everybody doesn't need to move their crap around because we've made new guidelines, and that's not what we're talking about, but are we wanting to draw more farmers in? Is that one of our county initiatives?
Well, Walker County is an agriculture county. I mean, it is agriculture. It's one of the few counties left up here, that is. And so we're sure not trying to deter them, by any means. But at the same time, we're trying to protect them and protect the people that's around them, One of the biggest problems that we have now in the county is, back, 30, 40, 50 years ago, I was raised in the country. And, to talk to one of my neighbors, you had to have a real good voice. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you had to do some real holler to get the neighbor to hear you. It's not that way today, And, but so the more people we put out there, the more people we got that wants to keep dividing up the land. And so we're already down to 5 acres. And that makes a lot of people mad, as we all know. But if we keep walking down backwards, with the property, we're going to end up with turning the farmland into residential areas. That's what we're going to do. So,
Philip, why don't you explain to everyone how Walker County became such a agricultural steeped area? In other words, whenever zoning came in, everybody wanted to go agriculture because of taxes.
Yeah.
In other words, what created what we are?
Yeah. Originally, when Walker County went under zoning, and they were just like all the other counties around, that they went without zoning as long as they could. And when they went into zoning, what happens is, agriculture zoning has the least tax base. Okay, so you live out on the farm, and your farm may be taxed at say $2,500 an acre. But if you live in a subdivision or in an R1 or an R2 or a C1 zoning where you can turn it in, that same acre may be being taxed at $12,000 or $15,000 an acre. So when the counties took in zoning, everybody wanted to be in agriculture. That was a big thing because that was the least amount of taxes that you had to pay. Well, in today's world, we have this easement, a conservative easement that a lot of the farmers have their land in that cuts down their taxes, on the land. Doesn't help them on their house, but it does help them on the land. So under those circumstances, that's how there was so much land in Walker County got zoned agriculture. It's really not agriculture, but it got zoned that way in the beginning. And so we never have, the board since I've been on it, or the board in front of me has never tried to rezone, the property. We've had a company to do what we call a 20-year plan that kind of tells us which way the county's going to grow, and they kind of tell you how, what's supposed to happen. And so, but some of the zoning's going to have to be changed in those areas to make that happen. And usually you try to change zoning, that upsets a lot of people, if you know what I'm saying. But anyway, that's how we ended up with so much agricultural land in Walker County. Everybody, originally in their minds, in the people's minds, it was nothing but the tax base. My taxes is going to be this and it should be that. So that's kind of how it all got so much out of whack in the beginning. And
And I think the population in Walker County is it from basically where we're at here north is around 85%? Is that correct?
Yeah, you're talking about from Rock Springs, not, yes,
Yes.
from Rock Springs north is the biggest
And
population.
that's also the areas that tie into Catoosa County, which has huge growth in residential subdivisions,
Right.
Retail business, stuff like that. So I think the focus on some of this stuff is the areas that we need to focus on as far as that agricultural land. We need to be careful what we establish so that that can allow for that residential growth to come on over here. And then the other parts of the county, where your ag is actually at.
Right.
You've got 100-acre farms or 200 or 500 acres. We need to make sure that we're kind of looking at where we want Walker County to grow on the residential side and then where it can still grow and flourish on the agriculture side.
And see, that's one of our biggest problems, is when you think about it, if you go over into my neck of the woods, over around Villa now, in that area, we still have some pretty good sized tracts of land, And I'm sure down in the Cove area and, out in the country where people farm, And so there's still some pretty good tracts of land. But a lot of those people, are willing to bust those farms up and give them to their kids or sell them off in 5-acre tracts and, that kind of stuff. And so we kind of putting residential around, and I don't know that we can really restrict that, the way the rules are. And I don't know that we want to, But that's one thing that makes it tough on, how to zone, out there. Personally, myself personally, I don't think, 5 acres of land, I mean, you can have an orchard, or you can have a garden and, and things like that, but, you can't really farm. I mean, farming is a different ballgame, And so, myself personally, I don't think there should be anything in agriculture going less than 10 acres. But now, that'd make a lot of people mad, but anyway, that's my personal opinion of it, but.
Like define agriculture. So, there's a lot of people who want to have chickens now, which I personally want to shoot my husband for wanting to have that. I picked out 18 chickens, just so you know, and we had them, and that's awesome. But there are a lot of people who aren't farmers who want to have 6 chickens in their backyard. You know what I mean? That's not agriculture.
That's right.
That's a hobby, right? So the definition of agriculture is?
Agriculture would be something that you can do to make a living at.
Right.
There's a lot of backyard farmers, as we call them, they get, like you say, they'll have 2 pigs, a couple of horses, or 2 or 3 laying chickens, which is fine. And a lot of people just like to live in the country. I mean, face it. I mean, they drive through it, it's beautiful, they love it out there, everything is clean and neat and nothing in the way. And, they can have a dog and they don't have to worry about the dog, going over to the neighbors and all that kind of stuff. And so a lot of people just like to live in the country, and which is fine.
And dry,
And right.
Yeah.
and dry.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Or how many people in here are running what you would consider an agricultural business on less than 10 acres? Less than 10, right?
Less than 10.
Say 2 people out of the whole room, okay? Is it less than 5?
No, ma'am.
Okay, you, not less than 5. Okay, so what are we talking?
Yeah.
5%? No, I mean.
I doubt if there's that.
And you guys grandfathered in, so I'm not picking on 2%.
People who farm on
2%.
less
Thank
than
you.
10 acres of
That's my
land,
sister's
that actually
name.
farm.
Probably less than
But, and I'm not
1%.
picking on you because your
I'm serious,
grandfather and you're
nobody
here,
farms on
that's
less than
that.
5
But
acres.
let me make one point though.
You may have a garden.
These are, I guess you own one stock.
We do.
Okay, I own one stock. However, there are folks that are out here who do, grow vegetables and stuff
Mhm.
and make a living
Right.
on high tunnels. And
Okay.
so those probably would fall underneath the 5-acre part.
Okay.
There's a few out there that do that.
Okay, that's not livestock.
That is not livestock.
Okay, okay.
But they may use a livestock product from the folks that are.
Right, right, okay.
We've never had a complaint from somebody growing a garden.
oh no, no.
It's the animals that we get
Yeah,
complaints on every
yeah,
day.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you don't have problems with an orchard or a garden or, anything like that. It's
Sounds and smells.
Yeah,
But that's not an issue.
yeah.
So are we trying to define what we think the new regulations should be moving forward?
That's right.
Okay.
That's what we're trying to do. And if you'll look on there, you'll see from all the other counties that are around us, what the other counties are doing. I have done a lot of work on this. Scott there is a surveyor, okay? He surveys all over the place for chicken houses, barns, houses, roads, whatever, And so, I have talked to him about this with all the new stuff, and we had a gentleman from, I think the USDA or something like that called me, and he said that none of the chicken companies would let the people build, close to the property lines, Well, we have found that not to be true. We've heard that from the chicken companies, but right now, at this very moment, while we're sitting in this room, we have a gentleman trying to sell a chicken farm, and it's actually 33 feet from the property line.
But it's grandfathered in.
It's grandfathered in. We can't do anything about it, but it's 33 feet from the property line. Now, will you want to buy that property next door to him?
No, but
Okay.
I think that it's your own prerogative. If you see a chicken farm that has chickens, or you see a cow farm, and I grew up funnily involved in both, don't buy the house next door. That's not for you. You know what I mean? Unless you want to buy it, it's there. Pass they're already there. So we're talking about new people who want to come in and want to buy land and build new things. And in my opinion, and this may not be I don't know what the popular opinion is, but for me, I would go with a pretty strict, pretty big boundary. I would say, let's look at Chattooga County real closely, because I would not want someone to come in and build a Foster Farms chicken house right by my house. I certainly wouldn't want it, which is why I didn't buy a property right by a chicken farm or a cattle farm. And I have a lot of property, and I could put up a chicken farm on it and not bother anybody. But if I choose to build something, I'm gonna look at where I'm building, and if there's a chicken house right here, and I'm not in love with the chicken house, I'm not gonna build there, So I say, if everybody here is grandfathered in and we already know where everything else is, let's make it on the bigger side. Let's keep it 2,000 from our square, from our city limits. Let's keep it 750 feet from, the residential. If you want to build something new, then you need to be a real farmer, and you need to buy at least 40 acres to put your chicken house on. You can't put a big chicken house on 10 acres next door to a neighborhood.
Right.
40
So-
acres wouldn't be enough for 2,000. Not even close.
Right, well, yes. Well, like I said, math is not my forte, so I'm just picking a number.
You'd have to be more like flop that, 2,000 acres.
Okay, good, okay. But I say make it where somebody has to be a real farmer with real boundaries, with enough land to make it go. You can't be coming in and building a chicken farm on a giant, little tiny postage stamp next to the church.
Right. Okay. All right. Now, let me say this also. What we would actually be doing here, because we can't change the zoning, all right? What we actually are the regulations on the zone. Let me put it that way. All right, what we actually do is when we come up with this list of things that we think should be done, then Christie, as our secretary, will type all that up, and it will go to the county attorney and to the commissioner. And then it would be brought up, at the commissioner's office, or the commissioner's meeting, probably like a public meeting that we're doing, where people could get up and have input, into what, they're asking to change, So people could get up and say, no, let's don't do that, or yes, let's do that, or whatever. So that's what would happen there, you know. So what we would do is just make a list for her to type up in the things that the board agrees that we think, you know, it ought to be. And then she would turn that over to the attorney and to the commissioner's office. And then it would go through that, you know, because it's a legal thing to change, you know, what's in the zoning book. So it has, I think it has to be read into the minutes a couple of times, isn't that
It
right?
has to have 2 meetings, has to be in the paper.
Right, okay, it has to have 2 meetings, and then it has to also be printed in the local paper, so.
So do we have anything in Walker County in place like this?
No,
Okay, so we gotta make it up.
no. If you read the regulations, I mean, that's one of the reasons we brought this up. If you read the regulation book, which I got laying right here, that you can build within 15 foot of the property line.
If you're A1 against A1, agriculture against
Yeah,
agriculture,
yeah.
it's 15 feet from the property line unless there's a house. You have to be 400 feet from poultry house to residential structure in an A1 zone. If there's
Somebody pulls
no
a camper in
residential,
on the property line.
And they picked the wrong property.
if there's no residential structure, though, then it'd be 15 feet. But now, if it's A1 against R2, R3, you have to, in your A1, that poultry house has to be 400 feet from the property line.
Okay,
Apparently,
Okay.
we get a permit on a camper and they can move it.
well, okay, so we already have things in place and that's in place, right? So do we just need to kind of say, let's start with how far it should be from a residential area? Residential, residence. And then how
No, we
far it
have
should be
that
from-
rule,
For the 400 square feet, right?
right.
Okay.
You know, the rule that we don't have, that we're dealing with, is agriculture zoning against agriculture. Now, that's what we don't have. Now, in agriculture zoning, there's no rule other than 15 foot. In R1, R2, R3, and in commercial zoning, there is rules that you have to be so far away from it. But all you have to be is 15 foot in agriculture. And so that's what we're trying to do away with, is because we're trying not to let this farmer ruin this farmer's land that's next door to him where he wants to build him a house, if you understand what I'm saying.
I do.
So that, you know, but what's gonna happen is when we make these rules is about 35 acres. You know, we haven't talked about acreage. I have acreage on my books here, amount of acreage required. But the best I could calculate, I come up with about 36 point something acres. And what do you
Right
think?
at it. It's about what it takes.
Yeah, because when you take from the road, you know, from the property lines, and you put the guy out in the middle, it takes 35 acres or so, you know, to do it. So,
So like if everybody's good with the 400 feet from property line of an A1 against a residential zoning, then that's on the books, that's good. But if you're wanting to change the 400 feet from A1 to A1 from house to house, or 15 feet from property line if there's not like a residential structure, you know, that's what, you know, would you want to go across the board and say 400 feet from a property line no matter what the zoning? Would you want to look at a buffer? You know, do you want further back off the road?
okay, now then, do y'all understand what she's saying? Now then, what we're saying is, if we make the rules the same as it is in R1, R2, R3, in the agriculture zoning, you would have to be 400 foot from the property line to build a chicken house. Now, how many chicken farmers do I really have back there? Or farmers, chicken farmers or what? Okay. All right, now gentlemen, do y'all feel like that's out of line?
400 foot's not. It's 300.
Anybody? Does anybody feel like that's out of line, that's out there?
2,000 would be way out of line. 400 would be manageable.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm 2,000 miles, that's nearly a half a mile, you know, so,
I
I
thought
mean,
somebody said 2,000.
That was from city
That's
limits.
from city limits.
From city limits.
now the 2,000 feet is from the city limit.
And now that's in Chattooga County, that's not
Yeah,
Walker County.
yeah, that's not
Right.
Walker County, that's coming from a different county, but,
We have just a layout of surrounding counties' regulations, so, I mean,
Okay, so it didn't seem like that the 400 foot from, in A1 didn't seem to be a problem, Christie,
property line from the property line.
from the property line. Now then,
That'll take care of road setbacks and everything, it's the property ends of the road.
So,
Now then.
so you're talking about 400 feet from the center line of the county road
that's right,
and all
in
property,
all directions,
sides and rear.
sides and rear. Okay, does
No
that-
matter what the zone.
That's right, that's right. And is that,
How's that gonna affect if we have the big tunnel fence?
do what?
Be the
You
same
know, the
thing.
big tunnel fence?
Be the same thing.
It solves that.
That would solve it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you know, some people. Okay, all right, now then, all right, gentlemen, we've decided now that the 400 feet is not out of line. Now, in my notes I have on there, are we going to put an acreage requirement on them? Or are we just gonna leave the 400 feet? Because we know under those circumstances, you're gonna end up with about 35 acres of land.
Well, it'd be simpler that way, wouldn't it?
It's gonna kind of, topography's gonna dictate a lot of it. I mean, those chicken houses have to be flat
Yes,
across the board, so I think topography will be a big issue.
right.
So it might
Is it
take
feasible?
more.
It may take more.
Oh, yeah, you might have to have 100 acres. I mean, think about it, if you got some,
It's on the
if you
side of
got
the
some
hill.
hilly land, you know, like this, I mean, you know, you may have.
What's the minimum? You said 35?
Is there a perfect world?
No,
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Can you actually say that? I don't know.
If you're building it on a pool table.
Yeah, if you're building a pool table,
400 feet.
Houses are 660 feet long, and they're 28 feet wide, and there's 50 feet between them. And usually 40 feet each side of the houses, so whatever that adds up. 50 feet,
Cindy,
so 28,
Ask
20,
you.
let's just use 60.
can I ask you a question? Yes.
You don't retire, right?
I'm not, just a question. Does the state require you to have so much property?
I mean, and we were federal, but the federal does not require a set amount of acreage.
That's right.
But all of us, one thing you keep talking about, this is not gonna affect all these people in this room. If they have an operation and they want to expand, we need to make sure that whatever you're doing is gonna allow for expansion, or that it's gonna be addressed, because, you know, a 4-house operation might wanna be 6 one day, and, you know, those things need to be considered now as well.
And a cattle operation, maybe to add poultry.
And the other thing, you alluded to beef cattle and to hog operations. Somewhere in that you need to define what kind of confined animal operation you're talking about, because somebody that's just weaning cows twice a year, you know, calves twice a year, and they're out there balling for a few days is totally different than a feedlot where they're, you know, that, the days of confinement and all that needs to be defined in all this, or you're gonna end up with the same problem you've got.
Right. I agree 100%. And we also are talking about hog barn, you know, feedlot, and chicken house. You know, so it's a commercial, what I consider to be a commercial feed operation is what, you know, what I'm considered. You know, feedlot, the chicken house, the hog barns. I don't know if there's any hog barns even left in Walker County, is there?
Can I ask a question?
So if you're talking about feedlots, are you talking about 10 head, 15 head, 20 head, 50 head?
Well, a feedlot is a commercial operation. Most of the time, a feedlot is set up with like 70 head in a pen.
When I wean my calves, I have 120 head.
Okay,
Between 75 and 120 head, and my pens, my corrals, are close to the road. And they're close to other homes in the country.
okay. Are you already there?
I'm there.
You're in good shape.
But if you
But-
already do it,
What happens if
But
her cow
I've got-
gets tore down completely, she's gotta rebuild?
I've got 2 sons that may want to expand or may want to move
the corrals to other parts of the farm for convenience.
Okay,
So I'm concerned about that.
okay, I understand your,
And my farm is north of Rock Springs. And I've got over 250 acres. So don't limit it to one area of the county.
But you are in agricultural, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you're covered.
yeah.
So we keep hearing you're covered, yeah, most of these people are. We're looking, we've got to look out to the future, y'all,
Right.
for this whole county. And there is a ton of agricultural land, particularly from here south, that people might want to move in and start an agricultural operation.
Right.
And yeah, the people here are going to be grandfathered in, and that's wonderful. But, you know, the poultry industry in this county is, last year was $57 million. You know, Walker County, I've lived here since '85. Walker County has always wanted industry. We've got a $57 million industry already here with possibilities to expand.
That's correct.
So, you know, yeah, it's great that, you know, I don't want to see any of our folks here penalized. But I think part of the planning commission's job is to look out further, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road, when a lot of us are not going to be here. But those rules, the zoning was passed in around 1990. So we're at what, 2020? We're living with those rules
That's right.
30 years later.
That's right.
So I think we need to be far looking at the impact. These young people sitting in this room, they can put together, you know, we were talking about the size. You can put 2 breeder houses on 40 acres of land and meet all the setbacks, that 400 foot. I do plans, poultry house plans in Murray County. There's one road over there in the south end of the county. It's got more chicken houses than all of Walker County's got. You know, Murray County's got very good rules as far as I'm concerned. But let's look forward, and I would get input from people that have got knowledge of the poultry industry, livestock industry, and all, to set these rules to keep from running into problems. Just as Beth said, you know, she lives in a more populated part of the county for part of her operation. That's all that I ask.
Right, okay, thank you. And you're exactly right, and that's what we're trying to do here right now. And we're trying to figure out what to do past where we've been, is what we're trying to figure out what to do. And so it seems like to me that contingency, that 400 feet, which if we take all the regulations that we have, 400 feet is pretty much the standard at the present time.
Murray County is 200, just so you know. So Murray County is 200 from any side, right? If I'm reading it right, side, rear, front?
That's right. That's right.
So we're not talking about doing something crazy. I mean, it would fall less than what Catoosa is doing, and it looks like less than what anybody but Murray's doing. Does 400 seem unreasonable?
No.
No?
Well, Catoosa County, you can't do anything agriculturally in Catoosa County anymore.
Right.
You can't even build a barn over there.
Yeah.
So the 400 square feet seems to be.
Yeah, it's been regulated out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
If we drop that to, say, 250 feet with a barrier, a green space, buffer, all the way around them.
Or even 300.
There's a couple of the counties that's around us that will let you be closer, but you have to have a 50-foot buffer, 50-foot wide buffer. Has to be built out of like an evergreen type material that would hide, you know, the property and also break the wind or the airflow, you know, from the other property.
And I think that's the better idea to go, if it's on the roadside, and to go around any houses that are visible from the road.
The buffer,
buffer.
okay?
I like that idea.
So you're saying 250 with the buffer and 400 without, or just
Yeah.
250 with the buffer period?
250 with the buffer, and then 400 without it.
Okay, so what about Chattooga County with 1,750 feet, I think it is, with ventilation, tunnel ventilation?
They're not gonna give you chicken pox.
Yeah, they're what they're doing down there, and what we're not trying to do,
They're trying
is,
to deter.
Toots County, as that gentleman said back there a while ago, what they're actually trying to do is just basically fix it so that you can't build a chicken farm. And so, you know, when you get to talking about 2,000 or 3,000 feet, you know, from the property lines
Right, that's too
and
much.
things like that, you're talking a half a mile, you know, from a property line. So you're talking about a guy that's gonna have, under those circumstances, 2, 4, 6, 8. You're talking about a guy, he'd have to have about 500 acres to
Build a couple
build
houses on.
build chicken houses. So, you know, we're not trying to do that to the, you know, to the folks, because there's not a lot of 500-acre tracts left in Walker
You
County.
can't afford them and the house.
That's right, that's right. Not unless you hit gold somewhere, you know, that's for sure.
And I mean, I can let you know, I don't remember having a complaint about cattle operation. I mean, and they really need, I mean, those animals graze the ground. So, I mean, I don't have a vote, but I mean, they use more of the land than the poultry houses. So, I mean, you might consider leaving what the setbacks for dairy operations and hog operations like they are. And just look at the poultry house setbacks, because there you've got the noise and people complain about the smell. But if you live in the country, I would say,
I've
deal
lived
with
in
it.
the country
I
most
mean,
of my
you're in
life,
the
and I've
country.
never yet complained about my
But I
cows.
mean, you know, the buffers around that, I mean, but the dairy operations, I mean, those cattle, they graze.
Do
Pretty
we,
good neighbors.
do we have a dairy farmer left in Walker County?
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Right.
Y'all some tough folks, I can tell you that.
So what about what about the footage from the water sources?
That's
Do
controlled
what?
by the state.
Yeah.
Okay, so then that's already,
Yeah,
does
that's
anybody know what
already
it is,
controlled by
just
the
out of
state.
curiosity?
Depends on the land. They have to have a soil and erosion plan before they build.
See, when you do that soil erosion, it could run, what, $2,000, $1,500 without any problem. But then you've got to get it approved before you can get a permit from Walker County.
Okay. So we've got that covered.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that takes care of all your wastewater runoff and how close you can be to a stream.
Yeah. All right, yeah. All right, you know, we've got one other thing on my list. Now, we've talked about the buffers, we've talked about the footage, and now we're gonna talk about deed restricted. Now, we don't know that we can actually do deed restrictions. It would basically, a deed restriction is something that the farmer would put on the property. In other words, if you say you own a tract of land down here that's 500 acres, and you say, my kids can't sell that land, my grandkids can't sell that land, but my great-grandkids can sell it. Then you put that restriction on the deeds, and then that's exactly what happens. Your kids can't sell it, your grandkids can't sell it. You have to wait till you get to your great-grandkids before they can sell it. So there's a lot of different ways to put restrictions on property, just like we put restrictions in subdivisions about no cars, no campers, you know, all of the things that people who live in subdivisions do. You know, can't have a boat sitting in the front yard, and, you know, and all this kind of stuff. And we have looked at putting deed restrictions on at one time, and the restrictions, what we have come up with is not, is to do away with the poultry houses. Walker County, every county around has the same problem. There's a bunch of chicken farms sitting that the people have lost or have just quit farming, and there's old houses sitting on the property rotting down, or falling down, or whatever, so they become a blight issue for the neighborhood. So, I had talked to an attorney about this, if the zoning board would have the authority to restrict the deeds. We don't think we do. It would have to be something that would have, would be some real legal stuff involved in it. But the old chicken houses can fall under the county's new blight law. And where if you have, the property is falling down and that kind of thing, then the county can request that you tear them down, do something with them, to clean the property up. So, as far as I'm concerned, we can skip that part of it and just let the blight thing do until we get more input on that part. That's good for everybody. Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right.
What's y'all's recommendations on setbacks? And is it gonna include dairy and?
Yes. I mean, I think this is the contingency that I have written down here while everybody was talking. We're talking 400 foot from all the property lines, or 250 foot with a buffer from the road.
50 feet.
50-foot buffer.
With a 50 foot buffer.
250 feet with a 50-foot buffer.
With a 50 foot buffer.
On all source sides, or just on the road?
Well, we only talked about the road side, but now it could work all the way around.
All the way around.
Yeah.
Well, it would depend on the,
If you meet the 400, then you don't need it. But if you
well,
don't-
now it would
but if you
depend
go
on who
250.
owns the land on the other three sides. If he owns the land on the other three sides,
It don't matter.
it don't matter.
But down here on South Dick Creek, he created 78 acres to the property line.
I think it,
Well, see, you have to be careful the way you say that, though. Because even though you own that property, you can cut it off and sell it to someone, or you may own property where you have 3 or 4 deeds to the piece of property that you've got. Now, I have 3 or 4 deeds to my place. Now, so I didn't put it all together into one, because once you do that, it changes what you can do with it. So I have pieces of property, like one piece is like 15 acres, and one piece is like 5 acres, and one piece is like 72 acres, and so so I can sell those under different different ways with the road frontage and all that. So we have to be careful how we say that, even though you own the property.
True.
Next door to what you're doing. So I think the deal with a 250 foot buffer all the way around the property, if you can't meet the 400 foot regulation. Right? Is that what we're saying?
Now, that would be on 3 sides. The 4th side, you'll have more than that for the truck traffic.
Right. Yeah.
The 4th
that
side,
solves
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah. For the people to operate the building.
right,
And the same way with the feedlot. You'd be in the same boat with the feedlot.
yeah.
So
So it would only be 3 sides.
Right. Okay. All right, Chris, you got that down? Okay, now that's the only thing we had on the poultry houses. Now, folks, what we're going to do, well, these poultry houses, we're gonna type up a thing to go to the commissioner's office, and this is gonna be our recommendation that's coming from this board. From the board, we're gonna request that we have a 400 foot, from the property, from anybody's property, okay? All the way around your property to the house, or to the feedlot, either one. Or you can be 250 foot from your neighbor's property if you have a 50 foot live growing border, which we would say either holly bushes, something that's not gonna die.
Has somebody defined that knows how to build a hedgerow that is specifically for a poultry operation? There's tons of information out there that was developed up in the area that really defines that, because it will get, if you need to be very specific.
Yes.
It needs to be, because it doesn't just need to be evergreen, because for it to truly provide air quality benefits, you need to have 3 different species made up in that buffer. So,
Okay.
I mean, that needs to be something, if you're gonna go to other trouble, that needs to be specific.
Okay, okay.
Define
Well, we
what
do have some specific things in our code about that, and so,
Basic for poultry air quality.
yes, yes.
So we need to make sure that we've got it clearly defined, that we've
Right,
met the
right.
regulations.
Okay. We can do that. Okay. Yeah, now we're through with the chicken house. No, wait a minute, what?
Y'all said 250 feet with a 50-foot buffer on 3 sides.
Well,
Is that,
like Sam said, one side is gonna end up being the side they operate everything off of, and, but we're gonna stick with our 400 foot on that side.
Because you'd have to come in
I
and
mean,
out,
yeah.
driveway and all that. So that already automatically is 400.
Mr. Cantrell, so can you just clarify? I understand the 400 foot from the property lines or from the center of the road, or the 250 foot with a 50-foot
But,
air quality buffer.
And these are new people coming in.
New people coming in. But for those of us that have been in agriculture for a long time, if we move our corrals, is that still grandfathered in? Because it would be a new corral, but just moved from one place on my farm to another place. How are you gonna handle that?
yeah, I don't, that could be a real tricky question for us and the county attorney.
That's why I
Since-
asked.
Well, I'll tell you what, she's not talking
Since you're
about,
already existing, you know, you're existing there now. Now, there would be one thing, even though you would be existing, if you tried to build a corral like, you know, real close to the road, or if you tried to do something like that, that might become an issue with your neighbors, not so much with us. I don't know. We'd have to have a little bit of legal advice on that before I would try to give you any kind of an answer, you know.
That would be improvements to the farm, so just let it go as improvements
to a grandfathered in property.
and still be grandfathered in.
I don't think we could, because what we're trying to, what we're really talking about is the future, not what's existing, you know, right now. Now, if you went to build you some chicken houses on that farm, you know, after this is put in place, then you would have to, you know, meet the new regulations, you know, because that would be a different kind of operation. So, but like I say, you know, some of that might get real legal, you know, that'd have to be worded correctly.
okay, but like the poultry house, okay, if somebody's got 6 poultry houses and like somebody said, they want to add 2 more, I mean, are they going to be grandfathered in with the old regulations?
No.
You still have to go through the state to get a permit.
No, not when you go to add, no, I don't think so, I don't
Because
think.
whatever grandfather's what's there.
Yeah, grandfather means what is on the ground, you know what I'm saying, what's on the ground, not what you can put on the ground.
When you're changing these regulations, is there not a way for you to specify only chicken houses are the new regulations? Because it seems to be what people are complaining about. When Betts has her feedlot of her cattle, that's not year-round. It's not producing a smell year-round, and she can move them. It's not gonna be a permanent structure.
Yeah, I
Could
think
you
it's
not do
really,
chicken houses separate?
Well, yes and no, because what we're looking at is what is going to be built, not what is already built. As the gentleman said back there a while ago, we're looking into the future, not into the past. So if you wanted to build a feedlot on your property and you didn't have one and you wasn't grandfathered in, then these new rules that we're coming up with would be what you would have to do. If you're already out there in that business and you're doing that, then I really don't think we can go back and make you do something. Now, there would be one thing if you're thinking about being a chicken farmer and you've got, say you got 2 chicken houses and you want to build 2 more. Now then, grandfather means what's on the ground, not what you can put on the ground. So when you went to build the next 2 houses, then you would probably end up, not only the county, but the state's got some, some say-so in that about the water runoff and the distance you gotta be and all that kind of stuff,
But if,
so.
I guess my confusion is, a corral isn't a house, it's not a permanent structure. So if Bets wanted to push all her cows into a corner for a little while, because she was trying to reseed or anything else, that's completely different than her putting a chicken lot in the corner of her farm on the road.
Yeah.
That's why I thought, if possible, I think the chicken houses should be separate from the
Well,
other
they will be,
I think they already are.
yeah, they will be written up
Because of the
different,
state
yeah.
laws and what has to happen.
What you want to say?
Now, if you've got existing houses now, say one of them gets blown down by a storm or something, how does that affect?
Well, it would actually work like this. It will kind of still fall under the same law as this. Say you got a mobile home on your property, and you pull that mobile home off, and your zoning is, say, R1, and you pull that mobile home off, and it's gone for 12 months and 5 days, you can't put it back.
So if your chicken house got blown.
Because
down,
it changes,
you have a certain amount of time?
it goes back to the original zoning. Now, the chicken house, if it got blowed down or burnt up or something like that, was completely done away with, I don't know if it would fall, would it fall in?
You would have a year to build it back right there where it was at.
That's right. And if you didn't build it back in that 12 months, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, okay.
But did we understand what Christie asked a while ago? I don't hear good. Okay, I got 4 chicken houses, I got 100 acres of land, I got 4 chicken houses. 2 years from now, chicken industry looks good, I wanna come in and build 2 more.
You have to meet these setbacks. What you've got's there,
Okay.
but those new ones would have to be.
We had to meet the 400 or the 250.
That's
Okay.
right, that's right.
For a new structure.
All right. Now, we got everything with
What
over
about
there?
the acreage?
I think the acreage, when
The
we
acreage
talk,
will stand good for
I think
itself.
the acreage that's.
we think that the setbacks is gonna become the acreage. But anybody out there that's thinking about building chicken houses, under these new rules, you can tell them that according to the topo of the land, how their land lays, where they can grade them a flat place, 600 foot long, or really 1,000 foot long, I think, on the count of the trucks and all that stuff. But to go out there, it looks like to us, by the way we configure it, that about the minimum is gonna be 40 acres. Now, you can have an engineer or a surveyor go out and, plot all of that and make it work, but when we do the math ourselves on a piece of paper, we're all coming up with 36 to 40 acres, so, just to give you an idea.
Perfect situation, if it was a tabletop, right at 20 acres. But it'd have to be perfect, where there's no grade, just
Yeah.
true.
Yeah,
2 houses.
and we know that don't
With a
exist.
400 foot new, 400
And
foot
that's
buffer.
2 houses.
That's 2 houses.
Right, 2 houses, right, yeah.
Well, talking about the, being blight or the chicken houses, that section 12, you don't know if it actually refers to chicken houses in that section 12 on blighted and derelict property?
I'm not sure that it does, but we think that's what we're gonna do, is put them into that piece of property of blight.
Oh, you think you'll put more burden on somebody, on the landowner? You're gonna put that burden on the landowner?
Well, I don't know if you wanna call it a burden or not.
Sure it is.
To clean up.
You don't always, well,
Are we solving that one tonight?
just a quick thing would be like, we know the person that's there is the guy that's in charge of the property and has got the houses and has to do something with them. But at the same time, what is that doing to the neighborhood and to the neighbors that want to come and maybe build another farm or build a nice home or something like that, and they're looking at those, and so your neighbor can't sell his property. So that's kind of what we're looking at too.
What I'm looking at is a place where I live in High Point, Georgia, where a piece of property with an old fallen-in chicken house was bought. Somebody bought the property with the old chicken house on there. They didn't have a problem with it,
That's fine.
but a bunch of rubberneckers going by seem to have a problem with it. And then it's putting a burden, pardon?
Don't want your neighbors to do about that, right?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, we need to move on to the next thing now. The next thing is we've been talking about doing is making a new zone in Walker County that would be called an A1-C. An A1-C zone would be agriculture 1 commercial. And inside that commercial, these are the things that we're thinking that would become commercial. We're thinking that yurts, cabins, RV sites, primitive campsites, tree houses, small cabins, minimum stay places where, say you build a house and you do that Verbo, whatever it is, where you rent them on the telephone, somebody comes in and stays, that kind of thing. Campsite. So we're trying to come up with what we think should go into that A1-C zone. We feel like that the yurts and the cabins and things like that needs to be in an agriculture zoning. But at the same time, how many acres do we think we need for someone to have? We're thinking about you have to be so far off of the road with a buffer so that somebody driving down the road is not looking at a bunch of yurts set up on the side of the road or little cabins, that kind of thing. So we want some kind of buffer. So if your property, sick where you drove in and went in and you could build this property and it wasn't visible to the public, most of the time we have to come up with some kind of footage, a buffer or a footage. Primitive campsites, we all know what that is. That means areas where, people just put up tents, or something like that to stay for a day or two. And an RV site. That's where people come through and camp, in an RV or a bus or something like that for 3 or 4 days. And in these same things that we're thinking about putting in A1-C, there would be a lot of restrictions from the fire department. Okay, we'd have restrictions from the fire department. We'd have restrictions from the septic systems, or from the state. So those things would have to be worked into this. But for us, the first thing we've got to figure out before we make all of these rules is, are these the items that we just need to put into the A1 commercial zone? And we have people that want to do this. We want them to be able to do it. But to give you, for instance, back just 4 or 5 months ago, we had a gentleman wanting to build some yurts on a piece of property that was 16 acres. And that night, I had about the same amount of people that you are against it from the neighborhood. So when, we thought the guy had a real good idea, for doing it, but it was in a residential area. So they had all these neighbors that didn't want it. So we're trying to come up with a way so this can be done with a restriction of acreage or distance from other property, or in an agriculture zoning where they would be out next to like government property, things like that. So those are one of the things we're trying to work out.
Because one thing about those other yurts was they were like close to other people.
Houses.
Yes, so those neighbors' concerns was, okay, well, if you're renting these yurts and people's just out walking the property, I
They're
mean,
walking
they're
next
not
to the
gonna
house.
walk to the bottom of the hill to go to the bathroom. And they're gonna wander off on other people's property.
Right.
Do you want to take like a 5-minute break in case somebody's supposed to?
Yeah, we're going to. We've been at this for a little over an hour. So I tell you what we're gonna do, folks. For all of you who wanna stay and everything, but we're gonna take about a 10-minute break in case any of y'all need to go to the bathroom or you need to drink water or something, and then we'll start again, okay?
Chris, is that one about? Is that Alan?
Okay. We ready to go again? Alright. What we're talking about now is a new zone that would be A1-C, which would be what that means is the property is an agriculture zoning, not commercial zoning. It's in agriculture zoning, but it's a commercial entity that's in agriculture zoning. Okay? Because we can't spot zone. We all know that. Can't spot zone. So this would be a way to put our commercial folks into a zone that would work.
Are you making a new zone? I'm sorry, Phil.
Yes, so that's what we're trying to do. We do not have a commercial agriculture zone in Walker County. That's what we're trying to do.
Okay.
All right, now then, the areas that we think that needs to be in these, that would be in these zones is gonna be the yurts, the cabins, the RV site, campground, things like that. And what we're talking about is a commercial entity in the agriculture zoning. So they're selling a product to the public. They're renting a house, they're renting a campground, they're doing something. So they would fall under the rules of Walker County then that they would have to buy a business license, to operate a business, just like people out here on Highway 27 does. It runs a favorite market or something. You have to have a business license. So they would fall into that same category. And the biggest problem we have, the zoning, the A1-C zoning was probably not that big a deal to do. But what's going to be the big deal is going to be, what is it we're going to make the rules in that zoning? Are we going to require an acre per yurt? Are we going to require an acre per cabin? What is some of the rules we're going to put into that? Got any ideas?
Well, we've sort of got something already in place on section 3.07, recreational vehicle parks. Kind of fits what we're talking about.
Right.
A lot of that we didn't dictated by soil, how many something you can have depending on what the perk rate is, how much sewage you can put up. So, but in this section, it says right here, 8 acres is the minimum land area for a recreational vehicle park. So RVs is kind of
recreational vehicle, right.
So now, are the yurts considered inhabitable every day, or are they just something somebody goes for a weekend or for a week?
I think that most yurts, that from what I understand from the gentleman I've talked to, is they rent them, to people, and they stay like over the weekend or might stay 3 days or something.
But the gentleman we had before, he was planning on staying there, living with his family, right?
Right. Does it have a bathroom?
No.
Does it have plumbing?
Not the yurt guy, he wasn't planning on just building one and living there with and raising his kids out in the open?
Well, he
way out
was
there?
doing
It was a business, he was
Yeah,
gonna have
yeah.
a business with a yurt
Right.
campground.
Now,
Kinda like
I have,
Tailgate Yurts.
well, at the same time, I have read some of the regulations that come from other states that have a lot of these. Colorado's one of the biggest, they have tons of them out there. Well, they have put in the rules that if you do like one of these yurt campgrounds, that you have 2 choices. They have to build them like in a circle with a facility, bathroom facilities, bathhouse type thing in the center that's only so many feet from each front door. Or they have actually come up with this little thing that's another tent that fastens onto the back of the yurt that is a restroom deal. And they're using compost, compost toilet.
Green, yeah, going green.
Yeah, and there, things like that. And so, there already are a bunch of rules, that they've come up with for them. And, it's not like we want to prevent these, we just want them to be done so that it's not going to be a problem, And, we have a whole thing here of this is nothing but fire codes.
And building codes, I mean, they have to follow building, international building codes.
Yeah.
Correct?
Does yours have bathrooms in them, or do you have a separate building?
They're inside of them. I mean, we just went and built them out. They have a partition wall in the middle.
Okay, well, that's the way they're doing them in Colorado. Most of them have bathrooms in-house.
They have a real toilet,
Septic.
a septic tank. So those have a real septic.
Right. Well, see, we don't really so much have to worry about that because the state will do that.
But that's gonna dictate how many acres we're gonna place
That's
on it.
exactly right.
So that does kind of affect what we're
Well,
trying
that's true, because the state's gonna come in and unless that ground will perk
Right.
and take care of however many bedrooms they're considering, then they're not gonna get a permit to build them anyway, because the state's gonna turn them down.
So I don't know if we need to really place a minimum, we just need to make sure that they follow the standards as far as international building codes, septic requirements, etc.
You can put a cap on how many is allowed,
Right.
but they have to understand that, okay, just because the county's gonna let me put 15 in here, when I go to do the septic, they may
They only say
say
5.
8.
Right, no, that's what I'm, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's
As far as us telling an amount of dirt you can do, I don't know, that's gonna be tough.
Yeah, and see, when I really got to studying this, is the biggest thing that I have found that most all of the states have required, other states, is that these things not be in the public view from the road. Now, if they're just 50 foot behind the road, as long, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So that they're not just right there on the road. So I have read that from 2 or 3 different,
We need to put the same stipulation on them from the road as what you do from a chicken house.
It might not be as smelly as noisy as a chicken.
But you don't wanna see it.
yeah.
Well, a 50-foot buffer, I think a 50-foot buffer of,
Vegetated buffer would work, but I'm kinda like,
Yeah, like the lady said back there a while ago, if you plant the correct material in them buffers, they will stay buffed all year long.
I mean, it don't
Winter,
have to be a
summer.
50-foot buffer, you could plant a row of trees where you can't see it, you're not fighting the smell.
That's right, you're not, there's no smell, we know that. Yeah.
Trees, you just need a row of trees if you're gonna do that.
Right,
I
right.
think
And I think
Or
what
the
you're
property-
looking at is the carrying capacity of the land or the facility they're gonna use. How many people are they gonna have? I used to run counts. And you didn't look at how many people they're gonna have at the count, how long they're gonna be staying, how often they're gonna turn around, how long the people are gonna be out of the count. And see how much you're gonna have to perk. I mean, see, how much sewage you're gonna have to deal with.
Right, right.
Every day.
I mean, so that's something you're gonna have to look into.
When the
Like I said,
Are you
I
gonna
read
require them to
these.
have the property lines marked, so they
Yeah.
know, oh, okay, this is where this
Well,
property stops?
We've had 3 or 4 things brought up to us, is one would be the adjoining property owners. And we have had some complaints, in this situation, trying to figure out what to do, of adjoining property owners, where they say, well, if we lease this, house to someone, they don't know where the property line is, and they just go everywhere. They're in the woods now, and, they're just out tromping and having a big time. So, I have read some of the regulations that some of the other, states have done, and they require the property owner to put up a sign that says this is the property line every 50 foot around the adjoining, what they consider the adjoining property, so that the people that are staying in this campground or in this yurt village or whatever we want to call it, is not over on Mr. Jones's place, digging up flowers or whatever they're doing.
You'll find that just on national park land where they put up their little thing on trees that, national park, that's already, people are used to that. They
Right,
understand
that's right,
that.
that's right.
The other thing about the buffer thing, if you think about it, when people go to the yurts and they go camping, whether it's in a tent or a motorhome or whatever they're doing, you gotta remember, they're trying to get away from something.
Right.
They don't wanna see that road and they don't wanna see that neighbor.
Right.
I promise you that.
Right, right.
If a person sent in campground pictures that come to our campground, and the back of it's the interstate or Highway 27, they don't wanna go there.
Right.
They wanna see trees and waterfalls and
Right.
pasture or whatever it is they
Right.
see. So I think the builder of the campsites would want that buffer just as much as the people around it would want the buffer. Y'all agree?
I totally agree. I totally agree that I think when you go camping, anyone who builds a campground or builds cabins like that, I think all of them want to be kind of off to themselves. That's why they go, like you say. They're not staying in a motel. You'd rather stay in a cabin because they're out there by themselves, And so
But even though their neighbor may be 15 feet away from them, I've done a lot of camping and stuff like that, and I get it. But they don't want to see that traffic, or they don't want to see that farm sitting there or whatever.
Right.
So.
Well, see, it kind of makes it hard to figure out how to restrict them now. I know we have a gentleman that's up on the mountain that's got like 50 or 60 acres, that wants to turn it into a camping area, yurts and maybe little cabins or, different things. And so personally, I'd like to see that happen, for Walker County. I think it's a plus. And, but we need to give him, what it is he needs to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, we know the health department's gonna regulate the sewer, for everybody. And, but do we come up with, okay, you gotta have 2 parking places, per unit? Or does everybody park in one place and you carry them out there on your four-wheeler, or?
Would that not fall under some of our already documented?
Yes, it would.
Site development,
Yeah,
design stuff, road widths and that kind of stuff?
That's right, that's
I
right.
think
That's
Scott's
where
got
the
the right
fire
idea,
department
is this,
falls in too.
Yeah, I mean-
With all their accesses.
Water, they gotta have water.
Yeah.
So that's the
Well,
question.
that falls under this too.
I think a lot of what Scott's saying makes sense, is it's already in here under RVs. So this is just a variation on, okay, I'm not driving my RV up there, I'm staying in a tent that is round and somebody likes it from Mongolia. That's where yours actually came from. So we just modify that, and the hard work's already done. And it talks about the 8 acres minimum for an RV park, and the maximum density for that is 18 per gross acre.
It's got spaces, it's got some dimensional stuff already in here, it just
Just
probably
needs-
needs enhanced.
Distance to the bathhouse is 200 feet by normal pedestrian routes, which takes care of your washroom, bath facilities, toilet. So the hard work's already done. It's just the details at that point, if we just try not to reinvent the wheel.
That's right. And they have, the people who build these yurts have actually made a set of plans that you can buy with the yurt. And most of them that I have looked at, they build like a wooden deck, like an outdoor deck. And then they attach this, down to the deck. So some of them you can actually walk all the way around them on the deck, and others I've saw they just, you just have the deck at the front door, that type of thing. And as far as the regulations go, the building regulations, if they used a toilet, a water closet, then that would go back to the state for the sewer, and because most of these we know is going to be like in the mountains, or they're going to be someplace, and it's going to be hard, on the side of a mountain to get the ground apart. We all know that. So they make, if the people that's trying to do this will go to a, like an engineer, they could develop one septic system that would, that we carry.
All of them.
Yeah, what I'm saying? So, we're not trying to make them do everything our way, you might say. We just need to give them some points on what it is they're gonna have to do, you know, so.
So if we just simply stick with where it says recreational vehicles and add the yurt word and,
Cabins and then
cabins.
what defines a cabin? Is a cabin a 36 by 36 or a 24 by 24?
Well,
Yeah,
but if you look at KOA campgrounds, they're all over the country. They have a small, you could almost call it like the little buildings up at,
10 by 12.
yeah, they're just little cabins, probably, you know, small investment, cheaper than a yurt most likely. But those would fall under this same, I think where you get into is when you get into a tiny house.
Building an actual foundation.
Yeah, when you get into the
Place where
tiny.
somebody's gonna live.
Yeah, that's an entirely different.
That's what I'm
Right,
saying.
Yeah,
right.
If it has a foundation.
Yeah, we don't wanna go there
Right.
yet, because.
No, but what I'm
Tiny
saying
houses don't have
is,
foundations or
Yeah,
permanent
just-
residences though.
Right.
Like a camper.
Because these cabins, you know, to me, like, say a gentleman is building a campground, and maybe he's got 20 cabins. What I look at is maybe these guys having somebody build these cabins for him, and they come in like on a lowboy or whatever, and then they carry them to a certain place and unload
Stick
them.
frame them and they're done.
Yeah, they're just sitting there, and they have everything already ready to go, and, you know, the whole thing. Now, they may stick, you know, people may want to stick build them or build them out of little log kits or different things, but that's kind of what I'm thinking would happen if you was setting up a campground, you know, to put people in, you know.
So you're not seeing the cabins and the yurts being a combination kind of thing?
I am,
I can see where it.
yeah, I'm
If I had
thinking,
500 acres out there on the mountain and I wanted to have a little yurt area
Yeah.
and a little cabin
yeah,
area. And
I think it
I
I can see
agree.
where it all blends together.
Hey,
Would that fall
maybe-
under a PUD?
You might even want to have a primitive campground.
Right.
You
So
may
then-
want to have yurts and cabins and a primitive campground. If you got
Exactly.
500 acres, I mean, let's face it, you know.
So does that fall under a PUD then? Is that a planned unit kind of development?
I'm so glad you.
I don't know, that's a good question, Bill, since.
Well, that's just that's the next section this goes from,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
from the recreational to the planned.
To a plan,
unit.
yeah, to a plan.
So it's
yeah,
kind
to a plan,
of
yeah.
crosses there. and
That's
that's-
for a PUD. Is there a minimum acreage for a PUD?
Christie, would that, if you did 3 different things on one piece of property, would that make you fall into a different?
I mean, you could do it, I mean, y'all could add it to PUD if that's how you wanted to, because, I mean, if it's a, you know, if it's a campsite, they're gonna want like a little campsite store,
Right.
which,
Yeah.
like, PUD is like Philstone Farms, they've got the commercial, the houses, the townhomes, the condos.
Right.
So, I mean, you could add this stuff to a PUD zoning.
I think it fits better in the RV though, where, because the PUD, it says to encourage a larger scale plan development, and that's not really a good fit.
Right.
Where the RV is, I'm renting a place for somebody to go stay for a short period of time,
And leave.
and then leave, and then somebody else is gonna come and stay for a short period of time in the same place.
Right.
Then you
As
gotta
opposed
watch out,
to, I'm
people
gonna
don't
go
stay
live
there
here,
all
They're
day.
gonna have to be
it's my
a
club and
a
station.
limit set on that.
It's my weekend home, when I get tired of sitting in Atlanta,
Right.
and I come sit in my $500,000 house in Cloudland Station. Those are nice houses, by the way. So this is more RV-ish to me than it is PUD.
Right.
And how he or she delineates yurts versus cabins versus primitive campsite, I think in our mind just becomes, assuming sanitation, it becomes a density thing, because that density is your traffic. You know, if I've got 15 acres and I've got 100 campsites, my neighbor's gonna be mad because they're gonna be parking all over my place.
But if you got 15 acres and you have 5.
I was being facetious.
Yeah, because I think we're allowed, isn't it, if you look at that, in my mind, aren't we allowed like 15 or something counting?
18 per gross acre.
18, okay.
For an RV.
Okay.
And so I think the better fit for yurts, cabins, rental cabins, and that is the RV.
It kind of falls under the RV part, but I think there needs to be some, the
Tweaking.
attorney definitely,
Well,
the
this
attorney
It's
lingo.
gonna have to be tweaked to this, because
Yeah,
this is gonna have to be met. The Fire
Right.
Department Act says,
Yeah.
I don't care how many acres you've got,
They've got to be able to get in and turn around.
that's
the,
right.
the, it doesn't matter 15 or
Yeah,
15,000 acres.
Yeah,
These criterias have got to be met.
Okay.
They've got to meet them. before we gonna be able to issue any permits.
And
The
that's-
water
that's a
flow,
list
the
that you've got.
bridges, the access, I mean, when you start getting a truck that's gotta have a 20-foot road in,
35-foot minimum radius or
Yeah.
something, I mean, they've got
I
to be
mean,
able to turn around.
so you gotta take these 2 pages and you gotta add it to this
Right,
to make it work.
I think we just say that in accordance with,
Yeah,
the first
because-
line of your zoning is, everything has to comply with this. And then
Right.
whenever this changes, then that
Because
changes naturally with this.
Yeah.
Don't you have the 50 acres up on the mountain? Okay, you take that, guys, there's no water on the mountain.
So
And if you try to
well,
put 18 campsites on whatever it is, it's not gonna work with this.
Right.
Yeah, an RV park's not going.
So that's what I'm saying, this is, no matter what that says, life safety is the first thing that's gonna happen, regardless of what y'all decide.
No, I understand. I
So-
think this is something we
I
can
mean,
kind
I'm
of
sorry,
marry.
that's just the way it is. And it's gotta be looked at that way, because that's what we're running into with these new commercial buildings coming into Walker County. The first thing they do is a water study. And if it doesn't meet it, then they've gotta go back to their engineers and come up with something that's gonna work for that situation.
I think the lady in the audience had a question if you want.
David, let me ask you a question.
You have to speak up.
Okay. Okay, let me run some scenarios with you. Okay, this is gonna be A1-C. Okay, and if you're putting all this yurts or commercial property or whatever inside there, how does that not change that from being considered agriculture? It's removing it from the agricultural community actually, because it's not being a productive portion of it, whether being able to log the timber, graze cattle, have
Well,
poultry operations.
that's why they're
and so forth.
changing it, they're making a new
Yeah.
zone.
Okay, now let me say something else. Okay, we have somebody who puts in a yurt on this agricultural land, X number of whatevers, and then in 5 years, he's seeing he's not really making the money that he thought. Okay, now he's gonna go won't sell it because he's tired of dealing with it. Where does that put it?
Right, well,
Can you do anything in
That-
A1
that's-
so that you can't do in A1?
yeah.
You can still do everything in A1.
I-
It's just,
I think that could be handled like this. As I was telling the gentleman a while ago, if his chicken house is burnt down, and he didn't do something in 12 months, then he loses his zoning. Well, say that this gentleman that built this park, that, whatever, he decides that he can't make any money at it, or it doesn't work, or, his health goes bad, or just, name any of the reasons you want to. So say he's out of business for 12 months, then we could fix it so that he would lose his zoning, and it would just revert back to agriculture zoning, not commercial zoning. And, we might can handle it like that. But what you don't want to do is when you come up with these ideas of these areas, is we don't want the people, think about it now, we don't want somebody to have a big investment, you know what I'm saying, in a piece of property, and then not be able to do something with it down the road, like, sell it to another person or something like that. Now, see, we can handle some of this stuff with special use permit, but under the way the zoning thing is, a special use permit only goes to that person. It's not a transferable thing. We give it to that one person. And if he dies, and his wife wants to run the business, or his kid wants to run the business, it's over with.
They have to get a permit.
Yeah, they gotta come back, and if they're not issued another permit, then, it's over with.
But if you use the yurts, which are somewhat semi-permanent, and the guy bankrupts, and then somebody like Potts Auction comes in and auctions it off, they're not gonna auction it off as a whole.
They would have, yeah, they'd have to.
If it's a large piece.
Or it would have to be a big enough tract that this board would approve it, because we see all auction plots. And when they come, Potts or whoever comes into Walker County to auction off property, They come in front of the planning and zoning board with the plans and, you know, and all the details. And then if it's not something that we'll go for, we just don't go for it.
And we're not saying you can't do any A1 functions in an A1C, are we? So I can still do anything A1 in A1C. I can do anything in A1C in A1. So we're just we're just proposing and allowing additional things to be allowed in an A1. We're not restricting the A1.
No, we're not trying to restrict agricultural zoning. See, if you read the book, a commercial entity, piece of property has to be zoned commercial. You can't go out to an agriculture zoning and build you a dollar store. Okay? Dollar store is commercial. So if you want to build a dollar store out in the middle of agriculture zoning, they have to bring us a set of plans, and the zoning board will zone that piece of property by what the neighborhood wants to a piece of commercial property, because it becomes a commercial piece of property. So what we're trying to do is let the people who want to run businesses of these sites out in agriculture, because we don't want them in R1, R2, R3, and R4 where people live, you know. So we're trying to make it so they can run a commercial business in an agriculture zone. And that's what the A1C would become. And then, I mean, that's what we're trying to do. It's kind of complicated in a way, but it's not complicated, you know, either.
So I guess we need to say, is the yurt something with a foundation, or is it a camper?
It's neither.
Right, so what is it? Is it, if it has a bathroom in the ground, does that make it a permanent thing, or does it, you know what I mean?
I don't think a yurt would ever be called a permanent.
Me either.
thing.
Semi-permanent.
Well,
It's like
it's
it's a
canvas.
fancy tent.
Yeah, it's the glass.
Yes.
Will they be able to, apply for the CULA,
That's
help
what
cut the taxes into
With what?
the covenant use,
covenant use program?
yeah, would it being agriculture, commercial, would they be able to take advantage of the conservation use program?
No.
No, I don't think.
Once you become commercial property, you're gonna pay commercial tax. So if you got 50 acres and you wanna go out there and build that stuff and you wanna make money on it, you become commercial.
Are you talking about the conservation?
Yeah, that's what, I think
That's gonna be up to the tax assessors.
Now, the tax assessor makes some rules, but I can just almost bet you're gonna lose that balance when you go there. So,
Wow. That's just a whole big can of worms that we're not gonna fix in 3 minutes.
Well, I mean, are you gonna limit what a stay in one? Because you don't want somebody doing them and them turning
Staying for 6
into
months.
long-term.
yeah, we don't want them to end up being rental units by the month, by
I
the
think
week.
there's already something in place for that, that if it's over 15 days or something, then it's 30.
30 days. Yeah, that's a rule.
We got hotel, motel,
When you build a hotel.
Right.
Or anything.
but that ain't
Yeah, they
Well,
turn
and
that
if
into
you're already doing
extended
that,
stay,
you
really.
Yeah,
in your
that's,
hotel.
You don't want that.
no.
Well, but I think what that's
There
doing,
needs to be a limit on the stay.
Will they pay hotel motel tax?
Yes.
Philip, can
Yes.
you stay?
Good.
I know on a lot of stuff that I've encountered, there's a 2-week time that you can stay somewhere. If you go into national park stuff, state parks, whatever, you stay for 2 weeks, and then you may have to leave for a week, but you're allowed to go back again. So in this thing, I think what everybody's wanting to make sure we don't do is create a village of
Permanent
people
residents.
living in yurts, and then
Right.
they've got cars sitting out there jacked up and broke down and all that stuff.
Right.
It's designed for people coming in, people leaving.
That's right. Recreation.
Recreation, in and out. So I don't know if there's already
I
something
thought I saw a
about.
30-day one myself.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just giving like what a state park would be.
Yeah.
And, because if you don't,
There is some regulations on that so that people can't come, put a permanent resident, you know, out in the middle of the woods in a cabin.
How are we gonna know it though?
Yeah,
is some of that stuff not gonna fall on the
Owner,
the owner that's running the campground, they have to fall within the guidelines.
I think the owner will have to keep a logbook just like a motel does.
Yeah,
And, people come in and they, they pay the bills and,
so somebody gave a complaint and David went out there and
That's right.
looked and he's like, I kind of think they are staying here. They
Right.
brought residents.
right.
And then he could go request,
Let me see your logbook.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and you've got 5 days to move if there's no way to prove it, you've got 5 more days to visit, bye-bye.
How long do these things last? I mean, the maintenance on
I mean, I don't know. One thing whenever you get into all of this is you always think about, the way I think, I'll tell you, I think about copper tone appliances.
Well, I think about
Now
the
then,
mobile
and you know
homes
why I
that
think
sit
about
around.
copper tone appliances? How long did they last?
Yeah.
Now then, people were all different, used to, everybody wanted a horse. Well, they sold the horse and bought them a motorcycle. So everybody's got a motorcycle. So now people sold the motorcycles, they got them a bicycle. So, people keep changing, so we don't know how any of that stuff will last. But I don't think that's our problem. I think that's the guy that's willing to spend money to.
Yeah, because you're talking about a fad, and then there's the other topic of how long does a yurt withstand weather conditions in our area?
Right.
And but all that's gonna fall back upon anything that's built anywhere is the owners keeping maintenance.
That's right. Keep
Well,
it maintenance.
everybody's been building a cabin on
How,
land for.
how long have you had those units up there right now?
About 2 years. We know somebody that built one, around 2000. I mean, like I said, it's the same thing. If you keep it up, keep maintenance on it, it'll last. I mean, I think the cover vinyl warranty is 10 years, but I mean, he's had his since 2000. I mean, like you said, they have them all in Colorado, where
Right,
they're getting lots of snow load and.
Yeah.
And if you look at a house with shingles, they're 15 to 30 years. Shingles depend on the quality you buy.
Right.
Well,
properties like anything that we all own, everybody's got it. It's how you maintain it and take care of it. Keep it painted, keep the roof fixed, keep the water leaks fixed.
It's ultimately going to come back to the person that builds it and maintains it.
That's right.
I'm a little more concerned about the fire truck being able to turn around anywhere you wanna have a tiny cabin. You know what I mean? I mean, if you've got to have, how does that work with other places where you're popping a tent?
All right, hold
You
on.
know?
If you take RV sites, motor homes, or how long was a fire truck, David?
38 to 48 foot.
Yeah.
How long?
38 to 48 foot.
Well, I'm talking about people
All right.
who are walking to a yurt, are not driving a big truck.
No,
You know,
no, but if it's built to the standards,
Mhm.
because the guy one day may say, I'm gonna put yurts in, and then, hey, that's worked out pretty good, but I'm gonna go ahead and start replacing as the fabric goes out and putting cabins in. So my maintenance is down, and more people like cabins now, it's a new
Right.
fad.
Right.
I bought a 37-foot motorhome. Well, I expect when I go into a RV park, that I surely can get myself around in there. You see what I mean? Now, state parks will go in and limit and say you can't bring a unit no longer than this in it.
Right. Yeah.
So as long as the stuff is built to the fire code, there shouldn't be any problems with it.
And I think all we'd have to do is pass that on to the owners of the property. And, it would be up to them and their engineer or their, the surveyor, whoever was helping them, get that area fixed, to meet the regulations,
Because they've got to meet that before anything else is approved anyway.
Yeah,
That,
because-
the soil and.
Yeah, because the county's hands is tied with
Right.
two things. One, your hand is tied with the fire code, and the other one, your hand is tied with the state septic system, EPA, all that stuff. So that, we can tell you can do anything, but that's not gonna get it,
I think it's pretty simple, as long as we just agree to put these classifications underneath, the recreational vehicle area there, if you will, then, and they follow those criteria, then why not let it happen?
Well, I'm gonna wanna know how to permit them. I'm gonna wanna know how to permit them.
Yeah.
Do we permit them as accessory buildings, residential, are we creating a new?
How does other counties
We can't do
permit?
it residential.
No.
We don't wanna know.
And you
How do
definitely
other-
don't want to do it accessory buildings.
No.
Because then you're gonna have people complaining now because we won't let them build
Yeah. They're
a
accessories.
building on
Yeah.
the property when there's not a house there as an accessory.
Whitfield permits them as a residence if they have a bedroom, bathroom, and a kitchen. If they are temp, they are allowed in an RV park or campground.
Chattooga permits them as a mobile home.
Yeah.
I think Catoosa won't even permit them.
No.
Well, yeah. there's a
Catoosa
reason for that.
doesn't do anything but residents.
Yeah.
That's all they want.
Yeah, they're a bedroom community, they run everybody off.
But, and two, we also have a unique problem, which is the lay of our land. And surface rock, which a lot of our surrounding counties may or may not have.
Well, Chris, that's a real good question.
Or do I permit them as a commercial structure, because basically they're like little hotels.
Yeah, they're written.
Well, and that's what it, basically it is.
That's what
what
they
it
do.
That's what we're
is.
saying, yeah.
Now,
It's-
are we
you're
gonna
basically-
require them to have a bathroom in them or an outside facility?
I think if you read our code book that we have now, you can actually have an outside
Bathhouse
bathhouse, but it has to be within so many feet of each of the,
Spaces for independent units.
And I
shall
think
be
a lot of
located
that's
within
gonna, that's
200
gonna
feet.
fall into place once it goes through those criteria David's talking about.
That's
They're
right.
gonna have to spend some upfront money. I mean, there's
Yeah.
gonna be some money up
Oh, yeah,
front.
the whoever's
A
doing this
layout,
is gonna
which is
have to.
determine whether
Yeah.
everything's gonna meet what David's saying.
Chrissy, your question about how to permit it is if you permit it as a commercial,
Structure,
because it's a commercial business,
that's what it is.
and then, I mean, they've got to fall and meet all this stuff, and you should be fine.
Yeah.
What is the difference in a permit, commercial permit per unit, if you will, compared to any other permit?
A residential permit.
Yeah,
5 cents per square foot.
more,
Mhm.
okay.
That's
I
awesome.
don't,
So that's not,
that's not
That's
a
not-
great.
Yeah, you're talking about building 300,
Because
400 feet, so you're talking,
15, yeah, that's
a
not.
dollar.
yeah, 20
It's not
bucks.
like a crushing expense.
No.
But the whole thing about it is, what you have to remember is when these guys make these permits down there, for the county, the permits have to, basically be designated at what it is you're doing. You're commercial, you're residential, you're a farmer, what I'm saying, they make these permits to the area
Well,
that you're in.
if you're making money off of something, that is commercial.
And if we're doing A1C to make commercial.
That's why we're trying to make the A1C so that they can legally do business in an agriculture zone.
Is the agriculture, that's gonna sound like another question. If you're making money off your chickens,
Yes.
Yeah, but that's a different ballgame. And think
It
of,
is,
this is
but
how you
we're
have to
saying-
think.
we're
Same way
saying-
with a dairy farmer, a chicken house, they would deal with one person, okay? They raise their chickens and they go to a company. A dairy farmer milks a cow, they go to one person. Now, what we're talking about is people coming in to a recreation type thing where
The random public.
random public, and what you may be dealing with is one of these gentlemen, they may lease one of these things 300 times in a year. So it's,
well, no, I wasn't thinking in that direction. I was just thinking if we're talking about a new zone, and I'm kind of thinking out loud, so it may be just crazy, but if you're making money agriculturally, but we're talking about making this a commercial agriculture space.
that's right.
This is more retail,
It's more retail, that's
as opposed
exactly,
to wholesale chicken.
yeah.
He's not gonna sell me a chicken.
I had some kids.
You can't sell that chicken.
Okay, well, we have cabins on here, but tiny houses is the next thing. Okay, are these cabins that's gonna be allowed to be rented out this way? Are they gonna be able to be smaller than what y'all set tiny houses at? I mean, can somebody throw 300 square foot tiny cabins?
Well, I mean, think about how big those cabins are at the KOA. I mean, honestly, they're probably, if anything, they're 12 by 12, if that.
Can we ask the gentleman? what
Yeah,
size
that would
his
be a
rooms are?
small one, and then
How many square feet?
Because
maybe
you
your
go in and
deluxe is
it's
60.
2 beds and a
Do
nightstand.
what?
So they're real
How many
small.
square feet is one of those yurts? I can't.
Yeah,
see the yurt.
yeah, how many square feet is a yurt? Could you tell us that?
The ones we have now are
Okay, how many round feet?
452.
So
but they sell smaller ones also.
Well, I had two things down there that you're talking about. I had a 12 by 36, which is 432 square feet, and a 12 by 40, which is 480 square feet, that I thought, would make a cabin, you know what I'm saying? Now, what I'm considering a cabin would be like mom and daddy, and maybe two kids, so the guy's got like two bunk beds.
2 bedrooms.
2 bedrooms, you know what I'm saying? And they may have a smaller cabin, for just like maybe a couple or something. But I'm just thinking if you were gonna rent a cabin yourself and you had a couple of kids, you'd want them to have like have something different, maybe bunk beds or something like that, and then have a bed and then a bathroom or access to a bathroom. And when you figure it up, about 430 feet, what he says is about what you gotta have when you try to, break it up.
Yeah, and that's, I personally have a 24 by 24 in the woods, and it's just enough, but my bathroom's inside, so if you start taking the bathroom out, I could see where you could get it down to the.
Right.
Well,
you'd probably
Because
go,
we talked about doing, on our property, we talked about setting up a gypsy caravan
Yep.
with a bathhouse. And we were gonna do, little tiny houses, but they look like gypsy wagons around a campfire, and then have the bathhouse there. And they weren't gonna be bigger than a bed and a carpet, you know what I mean? Because it just doesn't need to be. It's just to sleep in. you
Are
know?
they,
So in the KOA ones, you go in, if I remember correctly, you go to the bathhouse, go to the bathroom, so they don't have a bathroom. Their cabin, you go in and it's either a queen size bed or it's two twins and a nightstand. So it was very small,
Well, keep in mind, when y'all get these square footage down, you're gonna have people in the county that's gonna start bringing in storage buildings too.
yes,
Because I
and
fight
that's
that.
basically what the KOA is.
I
Yeah,
fight that every day.
Well, I don't know, David, if we decide that these have to be put in this
In that zoning.
zone or in
They've gotta
this.
have a
right.
foundation.
But they see that.
And the
and
commercial
they don't think they can
zone
bring
must
it.
be, have a foundation.
And I had one about 2 months ago, that it was a 12 by 30 something. 6 people living in it, 1 door in.
Yep.
No windows, no nothing. So, I mean, I had 2 adults and 4 kids.
Yeah.
They lived in the backside with no windows, 1 door up front. The kitchen was up front. If that kitchen caught on fire, we'd have had 6 body bags. So when you start talking this small stuff, regardless of what you do, your yurts, 2 entrances?
Yep. Well, we got one main entrance, but we do have a rear door.
Okay, the Johnson guy, he had yurts that had 1 entrance.
Yeah.
It was canvas, no windows.
Right.
It had to come with some kind of a knife to get out if it caught on fire.
Yeah.
We gotta think about this, but when you start getting down that low and people see this, regardless of what it's zoned, they're gonna go down here to Johnson's storage building, they're gonna start having them brought out to their houses.
Yeah.
And that's what we're fighting now.
Yeah.
Because we're saying as of right now, nothing under 500 square feet.
I thought we had discussed at one time underpinning and sewer.
But they do that.
Well,
They do.
now you're stepping over into the tiny house though. Because right now we're,
Okay.
you know what I'm saying, we're trying to think about in the campground. So I'm like David, if these people want to put them out in the, agriculture zoning that's out in the country on 5 acres or something, then we're going to come up with a minimum square footage, to do that,
Well, I was reading here, they said, Raleigh County not allowed unless they meet residential building codes.
Yeah, do it again, 700 square feet.
Yes.
I like that for
Yeah.
out in.
Well, now Catoosa County is 700 square feet,
Right.
heated space, and it must meet all codes.
Right. Yes, sir.
I know I just heard him mention something about, on a foundation. I mean, I know ours are built up on stilts, so it's not on a slab or a regular foundation. I know when we researched doing these last 2, Y'all mentioned about commercial codes, and I think commercial codes, you have to have an R value for insulation. Well, these don't have an R value insulation, they have insulation.
Well, see, that's one thing we've got to figure out how to do. We understand that a tent doesn't have an R factor. You know what I'm saying? A tent doesn't have handicap bars in the bathroom, you know. There's a lot of things in this recreation thing that we can do under the hotel motel laws, you know, things like that. But if you try to tie a commercial building that you've got to design for the public versus somebody staying in a tent overnight, if you made that guy meet all of the codes for that commercial building in like a motel, then, I mean, you know, he couldn't.
ADA.
Yeah, I mean, you just take the ADA code book, and I mean, you know, you can read on that thing till next Wednesday if you want to. And then you take the fire code, and then, you know, then the building code. And so what we're trying to do is figure out how to make these campgrounds, how would I want to say, friendly?
Well, you may have to have some of those that are ADA accessible.
Yeah, well, you may have to.
You may get in
Not
trouble.
now, but we're thinking, once we go forward to do that, I mean, I believe some of the ones at Cloudland Canyon are ADA.
I think they are.
Yeah.
Not
Well, see,
all of them.
well, I'll tell you how that happens. What happens is when the fire marshal shows up. Now, I was a builder for 50-something years, okay? Built all kind of stuff. When the fire marshal shows up, you have to have handicap parking. You have to have a sign so high in the air that says handicap parking. You have to have a urinal that's so low, you know, and so wide, so a guy in a wheelchair. Lots of rules that most people never think about.
For a campground?
I'm talking about for a commercial building. Now then, what may happen is if you build a campground, and you build a real campground, when they come out there and inspect it, they may require you to have 1 unit or 2 units that would be ADA accessible.
They will. I promise you they will.
Yeah, okay.
I know
See?
for a fact they will.
Okay. But see, we don't regulate that stuff. Actually, the state fire marshal is the guy that does it. And some of them guys can be really tough, you know.
You have to have fire extinguishers.
Yeah. That's right. Fire extinguishers, they give you the rules, you know, that you got to go by. And that's why usually if someone wants to do something like this, they almost, to save themselves a lot of grief, would be to go to like an engineer that would know, or an architect that would know all of the laws and the rules, so that they could just do it one time and not have to spend their money, you know, 2 or 3 times to appease everybody, if you know what I'm saying. So, but our job as a zoning and planning board is not to worry about all of those details that they take care of, but our job is to worry about getting you the place to do it. That's our job, you know, is to get you the authority to be able to go out there and do it. And then it's up to you to meet all the requirements that everybody, you know, puts on you, you know. So,
Well, that's still going back to how it's, I don't know, if the permitting and the code for residential or the code for commercial, if that really matters on something like a yurt, or
we don't know.
well, see, I don't think you can actually use either one of those. I actually think you're going to have to go to that yurt book that they have printed that's got all the rules in it. It's kind of like RV, these tiny houses, okay? If you sit down and read the regulations that these other states have come up with, these tiny houses, they also have like campground and RV regulations. And so I think the county would have to adopt some of those that would, you know, fit like in a tiny house. You can't have a bathroom ceiling less than 6 foot and 6 inches tall. You know, and the step can't be over 12 inches. There's a bunch of rules in there, you know, that you have to do. And like the upstairs, you know, they put in sleeping lofts and all these things, but you got to have so much room up there for a guy to get in the bed, you know. And so, I just think that some of those rules would have to go to what, you know, what we're talking about for the RVs and the cabins and the tents and all of that, you know.
Yeah, before they can get a seal for a RV or for a tiny house, they actually have to have the RV, I forgot the initials on all of it. It has to be approved. Like they can't just go build an RV manufacturer. They have to have their seal.
Yeah, they gotta have a HUD sticker on those things, yeah, they're regulated.
Well, there's a different, it's under the recreational vehicle class.
That's right,
So,
that's right.
yeah. So, I mean, wouldn't some of that stuff just be taken, that's not really our,
That's right, that's right.
we just need to figure out if we're gonna stick these things under A1-C.
Well, I'm not building a gypsy caravan wagon thing.
Right.
The yurts, don't they come like a kit?
Of what,
Like in a kit?
yurt? Yeah, they come in, they come in as a kit, yeah, they sure do.
The cabins, are they gonna need to be like one of these storage buildings, or are we gonna make them, you know,
Stick building?
stick
Well,
built with plans?
if they're gonna build them, then they're gonna have to meet all the codes.
Yeah.
I mean, your electrical, your energy, your, all that.
So even if they bought a storage building, they could convert it, but it'd have to meet those codes, which they're basically gonna be paying.
You'd be better off stick building than
Right.
buying a building and having to bring it up to code. And then, you know, or some of them say you're gonna permit them as mobile homes, well, then you start getting into mobile homes, you've got, you know, your stipulations on your tie downs and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I think like the KOA stuff, I think all that's built in a plant, because they're all built to the same specs. If you ever look at them, they're brought in on delivery truck and dropped off.
Well, the ones at KOA are, they're no bigger than these tables put together.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Well, then
Big
you're
enough
gonna get in,
sleep.
what, 200 square foot?
Yeah.
Right.
But you're opening up a can of worms.
Well, I just think, you know, from everything I have read and studied, that what you put in that A1-C zone, if we allow them to have a tent, a cabin, a yurt, an RV park, then we have rules on RV parks, you know, already in the thing. And we know that like a yurt, there's no way that it will meet the rules
Neither will a campsite with a primitive tent.
with a primitive tent. But people stay in a tent in a primitive campground every night somewhere. Every night. They got a candle in there burning, you know what I'm saying? And we're worried about them burning it down, but at the same time, they got a candle. You know,
Or a lantern.
Or a lantern. So, I think we may be trying to read too much into the, you know, into it, you know, because I think our job is to decide if we're gonna do, an A1-C, and it's gonna become, those are the things you can put in that zone. And I think our job is to figure out how many acres we're gonna require, or how far off of the road we're gonna require, or a buffer zone, or, you know, things like that, and then like bathroom facilities, you know, and then a fire truck or an ambulance, you know, be able to get into the property and turn around.
Well, that's not really our concern, though.
No.
That
Falls
falls
under the
That's
under the owner.
right,
I'm with you.
that
What we
becomes,
need to determine
That's already taken
is
care
what
of.
that's right.
we're gonna allow.
Yeah, we trying to read too much into it, because our job is to come up with the
The zone,
zoning
period.
and the planning, and our planning is to let them use it. And now we need the zone to be a commercial zone because it's a commercial entity.
Well, and we want this kind of business in Walker County. We want people to come and stay. We want people to want to camp or stay in a tiny cabin. I mean,
Right.
what's the point of Walker Rocks if we don't want to do anything like that? You know? But, so,
So what do we need to do to move forward with this?
Okay, so in this new zoning, yurts are gonna be allowed?
it's like a plastic tent.
A1-C?
Yeah.
Say, yeah.
Yurts are gonna be
It's a
allowed.
commercial
Right.
entity
What
making
about
money
small cabins?
renting it.
I think yes.
I say yes.
Is there, are you gonna do a
For
minimum,
rental.
a minimum square footage?
But on the, but almost on the,
5,500 on a cabin.
but back up a minute. When we say this is gonna be take Highland Canyon, they have cabins, full size, big ones, little ones, they have pop up your own tent, travel trailers, motorhomes. They have about anything you want. So it's not, so somebody might go in and buy a two-person tent. Is that guy gonna say, oh, that's only a two-person tent, you can't stay there? I don't think any of that stuff's what we need to worry about. It's primitive camping, RV sites in it, cabins in it, yurts in it,
Houses.
tree houses, yes. I don't have my glasses on, so I was trying to put that word, but in
Well,
that,
we know there's not a treehouse that's gonna meet ADA. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, if it's
But
a-
we need to be careful because we have someone that has built tree houses and they're bigger than my house. And they just got a tree coming up through the back porch and they weren't permitted because they're a tree house.
Yeah.
but,
People are trying to circumvent the permitting system by calling it a tree house, and we got, you know, like you said, we got one house, it's a house. It has never had any kind of inspections, anything.
It's not off the ground?
It's about 3 foot off the ground.
Yeah.
About 3 foot.
It's a house.
So it's just up on stilts, like Louisiana water house. I
Yeah,
mean, it's
and
not a tree house,
There's a tree in it,
as part of it.
and part of it.
It's called a
and
treehouse.
There was no inspection, we have no idea what they even put in it, what they built it with. They have no permit, they don't have a CO.
And it's not like the tree houses up on the.
No, it's about $300,000.
Yeah.
oh, wow.
So that's what I'm saying, you're gonna approve these things.
So that's got a cherry tree in it, not a pine tree.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, my point is,
No, it was a
these
joke.
people got by with this, and you're gonna let these other people, that's a tree house, no, that's a house with a tree in it.
Well,
I don't know that
I
we're
want
letting
to-
it with it, it sounds like somebody else dropped the ball.
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying y'all did, I'm
Right.
saying though,
Yeah.
but it came to us.
Right.
Well,
You know,
what I want to
after
say
the
about
fact.
this is everything that I'm talking about right now is not have anything to do with people living in it. Everything that we're talking about is recreation facility. Recreation means I'm gonna be there Saturday and Sunday, I'm going home Monday.
No more than a week.
No more than a week, you know, or something new. Yeah.
Right, so somebody's not gonna build a $300,000 stay in it
Place to
2
just-
weeks and
yeah.
somebody tell them to get out.
Five
Right.
days at
I
a
mean,
time.
this is stuff that's owned by another, we'll say a person owns it, or an entity, or whatever. They own it.
That's a residence.
Yes, I mean, they're gonna be in and out.
I mean, what they have is a residence, period.
Yes.
It's a residence.
Yeah,
And it's, you know,
but they did it by
whoever
calling it a tree
found
house.
that, that's
Right,
on.
but if we develop this zoning, and inside that zoning, they buy the property and they follow all the guidelines that are put, that we don't have to worry about, I think we're kind of
We just
beating
say,
the dead
I don't know
horse.
that we can say what they can put on that piece of property.
Well, what is?
As long as
what
it's
does
built
Fall
per
Creek
the
Falls have?
codes.
How big is the smallest cabin?
for example, you know, we can do a A1-C as the
It's not
zoning
big,
to allow commercial property or commercial activities, for example, yurts,
Tents,
tents. I
treehouse.
don't have my glasses on now either, so. And
I
then,
don't know.
A campsite store that sells
yes,
I think
that's
that-
in the RV.
just the
I think-
minimum.
That's in the RV regulation already too.
Yeah.
I saw it a second ago.
Yeah, it's in there, but about a campsite
Has-
store. is
Has to be
minimum.
less than 5% of the total area and something
Yeah.
else.
And what we figured that would be was somebody be selling charcoal and loaf of bread and, you know, Coca-Cola. We're not talking about letting them build a favorite market, you know, or something in there. Just,
And that's normally the place of where you're gonna do your business to rent your unit, if you will.
yeah, that's where you're gonna go and
Check it out.
get into the place, yeah. You're gonna go there to get,
And originally, that's how that stuff was formulated anyway, was this is where you come and pay, oh, you need to go buy something, and that's how the little store started in it.
right,
Is we'll keep we'll keep some firewood, whatever, and then it
Right.
created a little store.
Convenience establishments for the sale or rental of supplies or provision of services, satisfaction daily frequent needs of campers within the park permitted,
You're saying that's not
occupy not more than 5% of the area of the park.
code houses?
Well, see, the rules that we make, what you gotta remember, for an A1C property, as David keeps bringing up, and we know this happens all the time, We have people wanting to live in container houses and tiny houses. They want to buy these storage buildings and move them and live in mama's backyard
That's to live.
with a drop cord, you know, with a drop cord
But
going
all
out.
that can still be policed as it's being policed.
Yeah, what I don't want to, what I'm saying is, what we're talking about here is a commercial entity. In other words, you're renting this property, you're using this property to make money with. And so that's why it would be a commercial zoning. So somebody over here on Highway 136 that lives in a agriculture zone, he can't build a cabin and move in because he's not in the commercial.
Which is no different than prior to us even talking about any of this.
So are you worried, David, that somebody just sees this out there and says, well, if the campground can have that, then why can't I have it permanently?
Yeah, that's what
we're
getting. That's what we're worried about. Yeah.
And like I said, I mean,
But if it's recreational.
But wait a minute.
Well, because nobody lives in it full time. It's a cabin that is rented for no more than
It's
this amount of time.
commercial,
Right. It's a vacation
it's
thing.
commercial
Like a
property.
hotel.
Right.
I don't think we have to worry about arguing the point with anybody about that because they're in that zoning. If you drive down the road and you see a 12-foot wide mobile home, that doesn't mean that somebody can go buy one and put it in and live in it. If they do, they have to catch them or neighbor call in and you go police it.
But, I mean, are the cabins that's on here, are we gonna regulate how small is too small? Or they just, can they put a
Doesn't
100 square foot or?
doesn't the
300
health
square-
people,
No.
No, not in recreational.
We could
Because you can stay at 8 by 10 tent.
Because when you
Absolutely.
buy an RV, they
say
make
like
some
410.
tiny RVs I've seen that are probably 8 feet long
Mhm.
and they're a bubble and you slide in them. And they're approved, but they also have safety hatches to get out if they catch on
Yeah.
fire. And I mean,
Yeah,
they're,
Those teardrop campers.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, some of them's not even quite the whole tier out.
Super cute.
commercial.
Well,
Are we gonna limit the square footage?
yeah.
I don't see how you can.
Okay.
I don't think
Because-
for a recreational
In
rental.
and out.
But I think if it's somebody who's gonna stay in it for more than
Well,
15
they
days,
should
and
be
then it
getting-
turns into a house.
Y'all should be
yeah,
issuing them a
absolutely.
permit for an A1C zoning if they're gonna be planning on as a resident.
What
Right.
inspections do I give them?
I see.
I think you should tell them that you need to have a
If
night
you're gonna
free
have it
at each
built,
one,
Have a what?
a night free at each recreation.
if it is a cabin, it has to be the same qualifications as a house.
If they're gonna live.
Well,
in
see,
it.
if
We're
you,
not talking about- yeah.
got one out.
They don't have to have a bathroom, but they still have to have the,
well, see, if you
8-foot walls or
read some of
whatever.
the regulations, it says there's no cooking allowed in them.
right.
So they can't, you can't have a stove in
Well, the
them.
hotel room says that.
Yeah, that's what.
All they've got is 2 bunks that fall down
Yeah, yeah,
and that's,
Yeah.
and that's it.
yeah. They're camping.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really, truly, they are camping.
And everything that they do is out the front door.
Yeah.
So, meet the requirements of a building. If they're gonna stick build it, it needs to be insulated.
Yeah, well, that'd just be for human,
Yeah.
comfort.
So you're saying,
Y'all need to tell
make sure it
them.
meets all the codes that we require?
Yeah,
If it's a stick built, what
If
if
it's
it's,
a
what
stick-
if it's brought in on a tractor trailer? Like they said, KOA.
well, they would already have a sticker on them telling what they are. And they would have to be approved by Christie before they could unload.
Well,
KOA is.
I mean, they would have a sticker saying, this building meets this requirement. If it's commercially built.
we're talking about a cabin like a KOA.
Right.
I don't.
And it would have a
None of those are
sticker
gonna
on it.
fall
They're
into
not
that.
gonna fall into that.
Yeah.
I think if they're a vacation cabinet, 4 walls and 2 beds. I mean, our kids LARP all the time at Cloudland Canyon, at Harrison Bay, and I promise you, none of those are insulated because I
Yeah.
get to hear about it.
Neither
You know,
is a tent.
Neither is a tent,
Yeah.
neither is a camper,
So they
neither is
can
a
just,
yurt.
they can bring in buildings on however many they're permitted to have on
If it's for
site.
recreational use.
And-
For recreational use.
Okay.
Yeah,
Alright.
yeah.
So
What,
they
the-
can bring in anything. It
the
don't-
most
don't have to be
important
codes.
wording to this is
But you can't bring in 50 of them,
that these are,
you know, we need to.
these are for recreational purposes that we're talking about, not for somebody to make them a permanent resident, you know, you know, out of it. I mean, that's what we're talking about.
So if they like,
And-
okay.
And the owner has to have a logbook on who stays where.
Yeah, well, that would be normal procedure, you know.
Well, and
But
we
So
can,
it's still,
basically, the only inspection would be if they had power poles there and they had power.
yeah.
yeah.
Do you have
Unless they have a
electricity in your
bathroom.
yard?
It's
Does it come up through
electricity.
the floor and you have like ground fault breakers or something to plug up something? Is that what you got?
It's, I mean, it's like a house. It's electricity, heat and air.
Oh, okay.
circuit
So you-
panel.
This is
You're to the high end of what we're talking about. Yeah, okay.
I mean, we get inspected every 6 months for a tourist court permit.
Who inspects you?
See, what we can
I mean, that's the, forget what it calls, the same people that do the septic tanks.
Environmental health.
Environmental health.
It's gonna be the landowner's responsibility.
Well, now, I don't know what you, I mean, gentlemen, you gotta remember, they don't put smoke detectors in tents.
Well, that would be a person bringing their own tent. Yeah, I mean, I know we got inspected by the fire marshal also.
Mm-hmm. And it has to be up to code, right?
I mean, I would think if you're building your own building, you're renting it, it has to be somewhat to code, except for what I don't understand is like the R values and that, but, if you're bringing your own tent or your own RV or whatever, I mean, I guess the tent manufacturer has to be fire retardant, whatever, you know.
Sounds
I
like
think
we
this
have a
bears.
If
fire
they
marshal
got
here that's
a
thought through this.
battery
I
pack
think this bears a little bit more.
smoke
thought.
detector in each,
That is a good idea.
Instead of just guessing.
in
what-
each building,
Fire
in each
detectors
yurt,
and
has to
fire
have
extinguisher.
a battery packed smoke detector.
And a fire extinguisher.
Well, you know, some of those,
But that's not up to us.
some of those units, you know, they don't even have electricity in them.
Right,
I
but
mean, you know.
just
they-
a battery packed smoke detector for your personal sake.
Yeah, yeah, which probably wouldn't be that big
Well,
a deal.
that's gonna fall back to
They're
the
$15.
homeowner, because when you have a fire, and say you're renting a house, okay? And you have a fire, and you have a person die in that house, and homeowners don't supply
That's the
smoke
homeowner's.
detectors, the
Yeah.
homeowner's fault, and he can be,
Yeah, held liable for that.
be held liable for it.
Mhm.
Yep.
Been there, done that, know about it.
So let me ask you a question, can we seek the advice from somebody that's already done this?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's our problem. That's our problem right there. You just said,
You can.
every zoning person that I have talked to, okay, around, every zoning person that I have talked to that's in the, you know, zoning appeals board and all that, they don't have anything like this. They keep telling me, Philip, we're gonna follow your lead.
Okay.
Whatever you guys do in Walker County, we're
Let's go
gonna.
talk to Cloudland Canyon and see what they require.
Well, now see, that's an entirely
That's
different
state.
thing, because
Yeah.
that's state. It's
Yeah,
Yeah,
regulated.
but no, I agree with him.
That's
I-
a
good
I
point.
agree.
But if
It
we-
is state.
And
But
KOA,
we have
Let's
to
look
meet
at KOA.
minimum state requirements.
That's right.
But if we
Good
follow,
And
idea.
we can't be any more lenient. We have to either
Right.
exceed that or meet that.
Right.
That's
That would be our,
again-
Great idea.
that would be our
I
minimum.
mean, that'll answer all your questions.
That's
If-
right.
if-
Okay, but again, we're getting away from what we're trying to do.
well,
We
KOA,
keep trying to figure out how to make it work. That is not our job. Our job is to say, we're going to make an A1C zoning, and we're gonna allow these things to be in that zone. And then the fire marshal, the health department, the building inspector, and everybody else, whoever's building that thing, is gonna have to get the permits from all of those folks. And if they have to have an engineer from the state to draw this thing up, for them to be able to get those permits,
okay, so
So all y'all gonna do is say you can put these in here. The rest of it's gonna fall on us. And if
I
it
think
doesn't
that
happen,
if you take Cloudland Canyon, because they are state run, and
As a
they're gonna
model.
be, as a model, as the like, don't reinvent the wheel.
And let's look at KOA as well. We've got two. You can look at one, I can go look at one, get all the information, the measurements, what they have in the cabins, who they report to be.
I mean, Philip's right, we need to decide what we're gonna put in, and then we'll have to, we'll have to
But we
take
need to
that
do it
after y'all decide.
Yeah, because if we don't decide this, what are we talking about?
Well,
We're
I think
wasting
we
2
should
hours.
decide it.
Yeah, we're talking, I mean, if we, well, I say decide, if we don't recommend this to the to the county, to the lawyers and the, everybody else.
Our packet's gonna get that thick real soon.
That's right, that's right. So what I'm saying is, if this board is in the mindset that we should make the A1C commercial zone,
I think everybody's there.
okay, so then that's our job. And then what we're gonna allow in this A1C would be,
Depending on what we find out from David's model from KLA.
that's correct, because they may say you can't do that. You can't do that. Okay, but our contingency is while we're sitting here, is we think we're gonna be able to do yurts, cabins, RV, like an RV park, which we already got regulations for that. And then, like a campground. Small cabin store, which we've already got regulations for that. And then, the only thing that I put in here, or we put in here, was when we had the people talk about the property lines being,
buffer,
done.
and marked.
Marked.
Marked
And
every 50 feet.
every 50 feet is what I read.
I think that's a perfect idea.
Yeah.
Either that or a fence.
Or fence it.
Isn't there?
Yeah, a fence would be fine, as long as the property, you could say fencing.
Designated lines.
But, fencing kind of takes away from the,
It does.
being out in the,
If they want to
Phil, what is the zoning
If it's
for a
in
KOA? I mean,
agricultural
what's the
land,
zoning
there
for
will be
cloud
a
land?
property
What they zone?
fence.
they go under, the only thing that we have is,
KOA is in there.
Running cows.
well, the KOA would,
Commercial,
So would that be commercial?
commercial.
oh yeah, they'd definitely be commercial, they're renting them babies out every night. They're probably paying hotel, motel tax and,
So we're
the whole bit.
So based on further research, we're tentatively all agreeing that A1C is something we want to look at and go forward with.
Right.
I can vote yes on that one, but I think we should do our homework, like you're saying too.
So we're gonna put this one just on, get more information.
Well, I don't think we have to get any more information on the zoning. We got the zoning part figured out.
What about the amount of dwellings that's allowed?
Per acre, needs to be a number
It's
per
stated
acre.
in
I think that's gonna be
We're gonna go
based,
by the RV
Uh-huh.
stipulations?
well, I think that's all gonna be determined by a layout, whoever buys the 30 acres or whatever it is. They're gonna have to spend some upfront money to get a
That's right.
layout based on the criteria
Well, that
David's
you can
telling us.
put by stipulations
Up
of
to
the
a
fire
maximum.
department.
That's right.
Based
That
on
you can
on
put
your
that on
criteria,
there.
That's right.
plus.
The health
what's already-
department,
The health department,
health department,
water study, I mean, there's so many things.
that's
Do
right.
you want to go ahead?
There's just
and
upfront money.
But we don't have control.
I don't control it.
That's not our job there, folks.
That's right.
We just,
But we do control the maximum number of RVs per acre regardless of all that. So say the study says it'll hold 50, right now we're saying, well, 50's fine, but you can only have 18.
Right.
Do we want to look at that, or do we just want to go with whatever the land will support?
I think legally that we would have to, if an engineer, goes out there and he says you can put 20 of these on this piece of property and everything will work.
Stormwater,
Then
everything.
I don't think we could turn him down if we had that set of stamped engineer drawings and he's telling you could do 20.
We're telling them they can only do.
Can we, Christie?
We're only telling them they can do 18 RVs.
So they're gonna have to do like a preliminary plat showing.
yes.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, I think
I don't
so.
know.
It's the only way we're gonna
You
know
know
what they're
what?
planning on
We're
doing.
gonna have to put a packet together
Yeah.
for anybody who wants to do this,
Yeah.
and it'll have to be, you need to show us your design, tell us your ideas. Here are the people you need to talk to in the health department, the fire marshal and the
Right.
water study.
Right.
This is what you have to do that. Welcome to the party.
Yeah.
This is
And
right.
we're gonna, right here's the
Most
zone.
definitely have that in there, or they'll be driving you crazy.
Yeah, I would have and have that ready, just say
And
you.
we do that on.
Or you could give him
Yeah,
this
on
guy's cell
Sundays now,
phone
don't you?
right here,
Oh,
and
yeah,
just
that's
give his cell phone out and tell him.
Like on storage buildings, we have them a packet, and say, you have, these are the requirements, take them home and read them. And most of them bring them back, say they're not doing it because
Yeah.
the stipulations are so hard.
Right.
On
They don't
storage buildings,
Yeah, they
no,
don't wanna do it, yeah.
no.
Yeah.
I mean,
So they're gonna have to do like a preliminary plat and get it approved through environmental health? Or is it gonna come here for approval?
Well, it might have, well, you know, whatever we approve, environmental health can throw it out the window.
Right, so might as well go to them.
So to me, it would be
Somebody's gonna
behooving to
spend
the
that kind of
person
money to
spending
do
this
what we're
money to
talking
go to environmental
That's
health
not
and then come to us.
That's chip change. If they're planning on doing what we're talking about, that we're thinking they're gonna do, $3,000 or $4,000 isn't gonna be nothing to us folks.
Oh, no.
So
And $3,000 or
that's basically what you're talking
$4,000, it's
about,
gonna be
that
nothing.
plan.
You're right about that.
Approved or something like that, I think that's,
I hesitate to say this, but on our next meeting, do you think we might could talk about if that is going to affect wedding venues? Because everybody and their brother's got a wedding venue now, including me. So, you know,
Well,
how's that gonna affect it, or is it going to? And that's not an overnight stay.
well,
You know what I mean?
It
It's
would still have
not-
weddings in A1C.
what's gonna happen to a wedding venue under the
Well, there's
way
not
that
really
we're trying to do this, is that wedding venue is gonna end up being a commercial piece of property.
Well,
From here on.
they're already, most of them is in A1 zonings anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, A1, cause I mean, if you've got a field and you've got a barn,
You can have a wedding
you can
venue.
have a wedding.
I've
But,
been
I
weddings that
mean,
didn't even have a barn.
those can also be allowed in here because I've come across where people is wanting to, like the code, rent the cabins. So they might have a wedding there and have every yurt and cabin on the property rented.
Right.
So, I mean, I feel like the wedding venues, in my opinion, should don't count. I mean, throw wedding venues in there.
Well, yeah,
I agree.
I wholeheartedly agree, because if you build a barn for a wedding venue, you might wanna have 30 yurts,
But if you
or 30
think
cabins, you know.
about what we've already got, we've got a barn, and we've got cabins scattered all around it.
Right,
So I'm sure some of those people, David would know, come and stay in the cabins for their wedding.
that's what happens. Usually they rent, when they have a wedding, they go to the barn.
right.
And then the cabins are rented,
Yep.
because when they rent the barn, the cove house or the, that big mansion goes with that, the wedding.
Gotcha. Okay, so to Christie's point, I think it all goes into the same ball anyway, because they may have the wedding venue and then they want to build with whatever around it.
Right.
And that brings a lot of
And
people.
they may have a barn with a lake and put fishing cabins around it because the people love to go fishing. I mean, that's not, throw it in the whole thing and just let it go as an A1C.
Okay, now then, we've had a lot of discussion here. So is the board in agreement that we will make the A1C zone for these pieces of property be put in?
I make a motion that we plan on creating a A1C zone.
Okay?
Well, it's just, I mean, it's not, this is just a work session.
Yeah,
I mean, we
yeah.
don't-
Okay,
this is
that's
gonna go
fine.
to
Yes.
Shannon.
What happens is, when we, if we all say yes, then we're going to put this in English language, and we're gonna take it to the attorney and to Shannon and let them burn through all of it, the ideas that we come up with.
Yeah.
And,
But it'll come back here first.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see it first after
We'll
it
be able
comes
to tweak
tonight.
it as we see that.
So we're all in agreement, right?
I agree.
Aye, everybody, okay. All right, now then, I was gonna cut this off at 9 o'clock, because I figured some of y'all might wanna go to bed tonight, and some of these folks back here
This
might.
one should be simple.
Yeah, this is easy, go.
You talking about residential square footage. Okay,
576 square feet.
all right, we have,
Just do that.
let me find my page, okay. Real quick, I'm gonna read this to everybody. Murray County requires 584 square feet. In the rural area, it must be 864 feet. In the suburban area, it has to be 1,200 square feet, and the minimum lot size is 1 acre. Okay, now that's Murray County,
Okay, I want to throw something in there.
okay?
Okay, if you get to where it's gonna be this size here, this size here, and this size here, then you're gonna be having these want rezone, this one want
No.
rezone.
I'm not going to.
Okay.
I'm not going to.
Variance.
What I'm trying, yeah, we don't want all them variances. What I'm trying to tell you is what these other counties is doing. Okay, in Gordon County, they just don't allow it. 0. Okay, now in Whitfield County, they go under the building code. In R1, you have to have 1,500 square feet. You know, in R2, you have to have 1,200 square feet. In R3, you have to have 1,000 square feet. That's all the thing where they allow it, okay? And then you go up to Chattooga County, they don't even issue permits.
They don't care.
People down there build from a dog house up.
Most of them live in mobile homes.
Mobile homes. But
Seriously,
anyway,
they do.
they don't issue any permits down there except chicken houses.
What's an average single-wide mobile home square footage, does anybody know?
Do what?
The average square footage for a single-wide mobile home?
Most are
60.
wide.
30 by 60, 30 by 60.
Right.
I looked at that earlier today, there's some that are 648, and I don't know
Right.
what they go to, but.
That's right. Okay, the next county is Catoosa County, and they 700 feet is their minimum. You know, building a square footage. And, you know, we've had people come to us and bring us plans of 385 feet. You know what I'm saying? It's nothing but a camper. You know, 8 or 10 foot wide and 24 foot long. You know.
Well, they went and bought a utility trailer actually and built
Well,
on top of it.
So are we talking about making
Also
a
on
permanent
this,
home?
we need to make sure that it is heated square feet.
Yeah, yeah.
Because a lot of people have gone and they built these small and they've gone up, made a second story. Well, if you add that in, it is 500, but it's not 500 square foot on the footprint of heated space.
Yeah, yeah. Now then, what our job is again now, okay, our job is to determine what is the smallest amount of square foot that we're gonna let somebody live in Walker County. Now, we're not talking about a camper, I'm not talking about an RV, I'm talking about
You're not
a
talking about something
permanent
that has
resident.
wheels and an axle.
No, permanent foundation.
No, we're talking about a permanent resident.
I think 500 is fine.
I think it needs to be more than that.
I got a place in rural Georgia, and they made me foundation and everything, 24 by 24 heated, like David said, bottom floor. And that's 576 square feet. And they ran me, I went through all the building
That's with
codes.
the
And
bathroom?
that's with the bathroom. 2-bedroom, bathroom, and a kitchen, living room area. And then that was a minimum Hancock County, Georgia allowed.
I mean, you
And
can
they
make
ran me through, permits, everything, it was
You can make a
inspections for
cute
everything.
house, you can make a cute house at 500 square feet. I mean, I've got the plans here for one that's 484 square feet, and it's cute. I would put anybody in my family who wanted to live in a tiny home as a permanent thing, nicely done. You know what I mean? I don't think 500 is outrageously small. I think 12 by 12 was outrageously small, you know? But I think that is doable, you know?
Well, now remember this.
As a minimum.
Okay, remember this. What we have to look at as a board is, you got 9 kids.
Right.
Yeah.
Now then, you got 9 kids, you got a 1-bathroom house, and 480 square feet.
Well, my mother did it.
I was fixing to say it was the way that it was.
So, I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, because y'all remember that everybody will circumvent everything we try to do. No matter what we do, they'll try to figure out a way around it. So I say when we do a minimum footage, we gotta think about man and wife, a couple of kids. You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
But
but
I
hold
would
on a
starter
minute.
homes.
What about if you have a 2,500 square foot house and you have 15 kids?
Yeah.
You've been married a few times, happens a lot nowadays.
Well,
You collect them kids out.
I didn't think you guys have any kids these days.
Well, they don't, they just take the ones from when they get married.
Hers and ours and theirs.
What can't we do as a tier?
But you can't go down and say, this size house, this could live in it, because no matter what we come up with, anything. can
Children's
happen.
services and
Well,
health
but what I'm saying is minimum square footage, we could sit here and say that you could live in 400 square feet. Now, if we had a mother-in-law suite and she's the only person that lived there, and you know what I'm saying, 400 square feet may be fine for her. Now let's think about these ladies here, or somebody, you know, people they're gonna have to downsize a whole lot to live in a little place like this. Let's think about it. I mean, you know, think about it, guys. I doubt if many people sitting at this table could hang their clothes and their shoes in this thing.
I beg your pardon.
You know what I'm saying? So, but what I'm saying is the minimum square footage, I think, should be up there between 500 and 700 feet. Now, everybody can,
Let's go 600 and
because remember, we're gonna have these people that's gonna wanna appeal this, and we've got, when we make this rule, we're gonna have to stick to the rule that we're making, is what we're gonna
David, how
have to.
many 500 square feet houses we got being built now? So we've been telling them 500, right?
I think the only Cobb house that I know of, don't you?
Yeah,
We got
they're
one, it's a
usually 580.
Cobb house.
And ain't been many of them
There's one. It's made out of mud and straw.
since you've been here?
Yeah, he's
I've got 2 bedrooms, a bath,
I think
and a
500.
kitchenette, and a living.
And yours is what?
That's legal.
576.
See, if we
It's
make
livable. I mean,
it,
we live in
That's the
2
legal,
bedrooms,
he got a
Yeah.
permit
nice
for it.
kitchen area, I mean, it's
I think,
12-foot porch.
I really think 500 square feet should be the minimum. I don't think 600 should, because then that knocks you out of the ballpark, and you made a nice house.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
mean, you know, I don't think that you're gonna have a lot of people who are gonna be running to the gate to make one, you know, but if they do,
I think that's just, it'll suffice for somebody that wants small area.
wants a tiny house and wants to
Whatever
not
the
feel
case
like
is.
Walker County's restricting them to not have a tiny house, 500
Well,
square feet is tiny.
How
Is it,
how
you know?
how big is these tiny houses that on TV that been shown?
Most of those are on axles that you pull
They're-
around.
Yeah, they're not.
How big are those?
They're,
Yeah,
well,
400.
well,
400?
yeah, they're 350, 400 feet.
Yeah.
So we won't go bigger than that, definitely.
I think 500 is gonna pop a tiny house out of the running, because I've looked at all of that, because we've talked about buying them and putting them on our land, which we're not gonna do now, I can tell you.
We're gonna have
But
to watch you, sister.
You're gonna have to watch me, but, hey, listen, all my ideas are going, he's right, I'm not gonna come and get a packet to do
Well-
5 tiny houses, but 500 square feet is small enough to be tiny, but it's not a house on an axle you can pull around.
Are you gonna do 500 square feet heated bottom floor space?
Yes,
I think so.
Definitely.
yes.
So basically, are y'all looking at keeping these 4 requirements here?
I think we ought to make it a little bit over 500 square feet.
Well,
What'd you
that-
say?
it's gotta be a
Modular,
size.
24, just a modular dimension, 24 by 24, I mean, or 24 by 30, something. It needs to be modular for building that, you know, as lumber. I've got a set of plans, I would be glad to let y'all see that I actually bought and built mine by.
Well, if you look at the bottom of our residential square footage on tiny homes, it says right now, 500 square feet heated bottom floor, must meet current building code. Well, see, that'll throw a lot of these people out who wanna use storage buildings,
Exactly.
you know.
Right, or
All
mud.
right, the other thing is it's gotta be put on a permanent foundation. Now that, because remember now, get in your mind, we're not talking about campers now. We're
Right.
talking about a permanent house,
home.
A residence.
a residence. Okay, now then, must have a permanent foundation and have the electrical meter attached to the house. So that they can't move it during the night and the next day.
well, if
there's
it's
not one
on
there.
a permanent foundation, they can't move it anyway.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
I think what you've got in place now is good. I mean, it's gotta have the foundation, it's gotta be up to code, it's gotta have electrical, and it can't be under 500 square feet. So why, if it's not broken, why fix it?
Is Christie happy with it?
It don't matter to us, we just need something to go on.
Yeah, because we haven't had any tiny houses yet.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I think that what we've got works. And the point's even working because we've only got one of those that's, so most people are gonna go, I'm gonna build something bigger than that.
Yeah.
Well,
But if they
people-
want to, they can. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Well, you know, these engineers come up with a lot of different ideas every day. Now, if you get in you really get to look at, they're building houses out of car tires, packing them full of hay, and then, you know, plastering the inside walls and the outside walls.
But that's gonna go into your fire code stuff.
Yeah, well, it's gonna go back into building code, you know, a bunch of that
And
stuff.
that's gonna put the shipping containers out of.
That'll get shipping
The shipping
containers.
containers, I've got an 8 by 40, it's 320 square feet, 2 of those.
Well, the commissioner has.
Well, they can build anything over
Right,
500.
Still be the code.
500 is the minimum shipping, the smallest they build is
What
500.
about
I've got
this
one
one
just for
build,
storage.
500 square feet, like a hunting cabin?
Permanent
Out on the Lookout
foundation,
Mountain or something
up to
on-
code.
on the-
Well, now see, now you're talking about a different thing. You have to get your mind on what we're discussing. What we're
This doesn't
discussing is,
pertain if I want to build a little old cabin out there, a hunting cabin.
Correct.
I don't have a problem.
Permanent residence.
yeah, what we're talking about,
His would be considered an accessory building.
You're talking about an accessory building or a storage type building,
That's what I'm
something?
talking about, if I had 5 or 10 acres on Lookout Mountain, I just wanna build a little hunting cabin out there.
Are you gonna
Go
live
out
in it?
there and camp in, or you
Full-time.
stay
Yeah,
in
but
or
you're
hunt.
not living in it 7/24.
Is it gonna have a bathroom?
It doesn't matter.
Is it gonna have a bathroom?
He's not gonna live
Is
in it.
it your permanent
Then
residence?
it's gonna be permitted as a house.
Yeah.
Not your permanent residence, okay.
If you put a bathroom in it, and you end up having to go to environmental health, to pull all of that, then it would basically be permitted as like a residence, when you put that bathroom.
What about Johnny House?
If you put
What?
the,
You got an outhouse, then you do not.
Don't put a penny house out.
So,
Uh-uh.
it's a question.
okay,
Okay.
Let's say the gentleman did want to do that. To get power, what happens?
That's against the building.
to get power, well, see, you have to have a permit to
That's
get
what I'm
power.
saying. So right now, if he's wanting to do a hunting cabin and have power,
Yeah. Well,
but don't the power company dictate what he can do?
He's gotta apply for a permit.
Building permit.
yeah, he has to go to the office to get a building permit before the power company will give you any power.
Right.
Because without those numbers, they're not gonna give you electricity.
And with that, you have to have a 911 address.
Right.
So
That's
you
what I'm
start getting into more.
Right, more and more
So
involved.
you don't want power on that building.
No,
Right.
no.
Well, what is happening right now,
Yeah, right.
guys, if you think, Christie can tell you this better than I can, but we have people calling into the county, they want an address. Now then, so they can get electricity. So they want an address to get electricity. Well, we don't know what they're actually gonna do once they get electricity. But there's people in the county that have power that don't have an address. And what I'm saying is, they have a well.
Yeah.
Okay, they have a well over on this piece of property, so they put up a power pole so they can run the well. But they don't have an address for that power, for that pump
I
house.
think you'll have to have that.
Now, when you to addresses, like that gentleman back there's talking, so you go to changing all the rules. And like, he wants to put a cabin out on the mountain, no electricity, no address, no nothing, hey.
It's a hunting cabin, that's what we're doing, yeah. I think what you
Jack
got,
Sam?
Let's go home.
I think what you got in place right now works.
It's 3 minutes after 9, hey, wait a minute, I gotta have this.